July 25th, water and sewer meeting down here at the sewer plant. I'd like to call it to order. First thing is warrants and committees.
We have warrants, Mr. Chair. Make a motion, we approve the following warrants. The first one, Peter Stockis from 2 Meter Services, 65 Lakeview, and 160 City Depot, total of $75. Next one, Town of Charlton for our portion of the phone bill, $239.21. Phone bills, I guess I should say. The next one is, I'm guessing this is for June, I didn't look at the last.
June and July.
June and July. The next one is also for town, for phone bills. The Town of Charlton for $270.97 for June. Rico, next warrant is for Rico lease, $141.30, and 3 toners at $39.57 each for a total of $118.71. Total invoice is $260.01. Next one is for the Fort Electric for replacement of 2 grinder pumps. Total is $1,120. Next one is for the Town of Charlton for a police detail for the repairs of Stafford Street, July 11th to the 13th. Total $2,110.99. And the last one. Elliott Construction for that same work on Stafford Street, $11,586.
Got a motion, and you hear a second?
I'll second it. Paul second.
Any discussion?
I have a question. So, Steve, on the copier, I see here we're buying toner, so we have to supply the toner?
Yes, it's not in the contract.
Okay. Wasn't there something per page in the contract?
Not under the lease we had.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. We got minutes?
We do have several minutes for those of us who made the last meeting. There were several minutes in order to catch up. So I'll try to do these in order. Make a motion, we approve as printed the following minutes. These are from executive session dated February 23rd, 2015. 2015? Yep, 2015. That's what it says. I don't know if you want to take them in order, or if you want to do them all at once. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of meeting minutes, all of which are from 2015, except for one, which is for January of this year.
Okay.
Second set of minutes is from March 23rd, 2015, as printed. Third set of minutes from October 19th, 2015. Fourth set, December 21, 2015, and the last one, January 11th, 2016. Motion to accept all of them as printed.
Second. Any discussion? Okay. Take vote.
Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Sorry for.
Unanimous.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure.
Is Steve, on this work on Stafford Street, so we were responsible for the policeman?
Yes.
Okay, and that was for the raising of the
Yes.
structures?
Doesn't matter.
That's
Probably does.
Did they do it at a separate time, Steve?
We had one officer and one cruiser on Monday, We had 2 officers on Tuesday with 2 cruisers, and 2 officers on Wednesday with 2 cruisers.
What I meant was, we the only one working on the street at the time?
Yes.
I don't know what I'm doing, that's all right. I'm using my head, I'll just put it on front. It's been a long day. Apologies. Let's try this again, this time. That's okay. How's the paperless?
Time to go into old business?
Got 10 minutes before Brian gets here.
Yeah, do the office report. Steve? you wanna start
Certainly.
that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Calls and scheduling of grinder pumps are ongoing. I do have a list in front of me, but with me. I have talked with Ed. Ed was off, not available for a while, so we're gonna get back into that groove again. The engineers from the brewery have been here, and there's been much conversation. I think I sent this to all, but I'm gonna run through this so that we have an idea as to where we are. And some directions to where I'm going, please. Kevin, I think you've got one of these.
Yeah, I got one. Thanks, Steve.
This started back when one of the meetings we had with Mr. McClure when he was here, and we had a quote that was presented by Woodard and Curran to do a pre-treatment process for the brewery. Treatment plant here, when it was designed and still is less than 5 million gallons per day. Therefore, there was no reason for the MA, the MALD, to be done, which is a maximum allowable loading for the headworks. The MALE, which is maximum allowable industrial loading, that was not done in the original design either because it wasn't required because of the size of the plant. The plant does not have an industrial pre-treatment plant. The plant is currently in the process of having a new permit reviewed and done. Any industry that comes into this facility that is greater than 10%, which that's what the brewery is, both in load and hydraulics, there is a significant BOD load increase. The above 4 circumstances require that both the MAL and the MALE be now performed. Plus, we must also notify the EPA writers of the potential change in the impact that the brewery will have on this facility. The maximum BOD load by design on this plant is 1,000 pounds per day. The MTA, 5 East and 6 West, they have an average between 500 and 600 pounds per day. The brewery itself is calculated to be in excess of 700 pounds per day. So we're outside the design limits that we currently exist. So in the town we have an SIC code at Carl Stort's. It's the only one we currently have on the books that we have to deal with. But the Masonic Home is being looked at because they have a specific hospital up there, and that may in fact require a SIC code.
Steve, what's that SIC stand for?
I couldn't tell you, sir. I don't know. It has to do with what is an industrial code, and there's a number of codes in the books that define what it represents. So to somebody or an engineer, they know what the SIC code means. I do not know.
For the MAL and the MALE research, is it the plant that's responsible fiscally?
From what I'm gathering from here, because it wasn't done, and we now need it, that's the position you gentlemen are going to have to tell me what to take with. Because if in fact it had been done, or it should have been done, we'd go back or have some sort of a conversation with Ty and Bond. But when they designed the facility, it was not required.
So we're going to do this because we need to do it for the thing, but we're still well under the 5 million gallons per day that otherwise would require it.
Correct.
So-
The two things that we get bagged with
Is the BODs?
is the BODs
Yeah.
and the load capacity of 25,000 gallons a day. It's
Okay.
certainly more than 10% of what our load is. So, because those facts are what we're looking at, in addition to the fact that we need to open the door with DEP and EPA and say, hey, look guys, this is what we're about to get into. So the process that we're doing with this now is there was a Paul Hogan. Those of us that have been here well know who he was. He was pretty high up in the area of the DEP. Paul Hogan has since retired, and what Wood and Curran is doing is they're talking to Paul Hogan to find out what the best way to go about this is, so we don't step into a mousetrap and get our fingers snapped. So these are all things that are working, and I would expect in the next 5 to 10 days something's going to come forward for information. Need to know which way we're going to go.
And the numbers that they're basing their loads on, is that at their full production, or is that entry level production when they first open the business at the new location?
That would be at full build.
Okay. So there may be a,
There's a slight window in there where if you're opening up for 10,000 gallons, but if we're looking for a facility that's telling us up front that we may be getting 42,000.
no, I just,
Okay, no, that's
I
fine.
wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
we're
That's fine.
looking at the,
whole picture.
yeah.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
Couple questions. Our plant right now, we're permitted for 400,000 gallons.
450.
450, okay, thanks for the correction. And we're currently operating at what, 230,000 gallons?
Actually, right now, we're less than 2.
We're less than 2. But if we're less than 2, and from what you're saying here, is currently the 5E and 6W is taking up between 500 and 600 pounds per day.
Yep.
So, and our maximum is 1,000.
Per day.
So, per day, so let's call that 60%, just
Yep.
to try to make this a little easy. 60%, so, it doesn't seem as if it's based on the gallons that we're receiving. But I gotta take the gallons out. We're talking about the weight of the gallons,
Talking about the weight of the BOD coming out of the
which is
gallon.
weight, right, which would be the BODs and also the ammonia. We have at our disposal the ability to ask anyone who is producing a effluent or a combination of sewage that is greater than a household sewage to pre-treat. Because we can at any time tell
Okay,
6W
wait,
and 5.
let me, can I hold you off for 1
Right.
second? The 1,000 pounds a day, is that based on 450?
That's engineered capacity.
At
And
450,000?
It has nothing to do with the gallons, just the load the plant deals with.
Right, that's my point of the question, because
Well,
right now, what they're saying is the MTA of 6W and 5E is already taking up 60% of our space.
Right, but we're 270,000 different from
As far as
From
liquid
max.
goes.
from our
Max.
maximum
Yeah.
levels.
Right,
Yes,
So,
for hydraulics.
right, but as far as weight goes, it seems like weight goes, we're dangerously high.
right.
Unless maybe when Brian gets here, he can define those numbers better for us.
Okay.
As far as exactly what they mean.
Because if
We should have been granted.
if I may, Mr. Chair, what you're basically saying, Rob, and I think what you're saying is, yeah, they're using 60% of our capacity.
Total
Technically,
capacity
they're
of
using
450.
300, the equivalent of 250 to 300,000 gallons a
And
day.
supposedly, not supposedly, but this is what our surcharge is all about. This is why we charge them a surcharge.
But even if we do charge them or surcharge them, even if we do charge a surcharge, capacity still comes into play is how we're gonna be able to take on that.
As far as availability goes.
Right.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, Brian, we just discussed the current loading on, the BOD loading on our plant here. And what's written here is, it says here that, the maximum BOD loading for the current plant is 1,000 pounds per day. And the MTA, I'm reading about halfway down the page, the MTA cites 5E and 6W currently use 500 to 600 pounds per day. So, to put that into percentage, the MTA is currently using about 60% of our capacity of our plant, as far as BODs go.
Yeah, according to this.
Well, I'm asking you. Never mind what this is what
This
this
is the
says.
first time I've seen this.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm trying to see if you concur with what's
No,
being
this
said.
is the first time I'm laying
Okay,
eyes
I
on
don't
it
mean
right
to put
now.
you in a hot spot,
Nope,
you know, but
fine.
it's something that says, oh geez, hold it, let's put the brakes on it. And Brian, you do agree, is I think, and Steve is with our bylaws. And any time we can tell a user such as the MTA or any user that exceeds what we have identified as a standard, if they are over that standard, we can say to them, all right, now we need you to pre-treat. So we can put that as a prerequisite.
As for a law that states that?
I believe in our bylaws, we have that.
Okay, I'll have to look that up.
I saw
can't
Kevin
give you,
over there shaking his head up and
100%
down.
definite
Looking at
answer.
Yeah, okay. Because the thing is we all understand that, you know, the brewery wants to get going here. And we all have to make it clear, at any point in time, is if that load is getting too heavy for us, then we can easily say, now you need to pre-treat, this is the standard you need to meet. And we can change that standard to be as stringent as, which would be most stringent, is if it was household weight.
5 minutes, Joe.
Absolutely.
Steve, where'd you get the 500 to 600 pounds? Is that just estimated, or is that?
That was estimated, actually it came out of Wooded Covered.
From all the data, the flow notes I give you?
Yes. Because the ultimate conclusion is looking at the numbers that you're looking at there, is the statement was that a pre-treatment process should limit their BOD loads to 300 or less.
I thought the brewery had expected to pre-treat.
They are, but they have asked us.
Is this figure after they pre-treated?
No,
Or this is
that's
before,
that's what the
so-
brewery.
So that's raw.
Yes.
So this will dictate what pre-treatment
How much we.
Yes.
system that they need to look at.
Might still be under 1,000 pounds a day then, if
Yes.
the
If
brewery's
they-
pre-treating. And if we exceeded this, what was the price tag for getting these extra pounds of BOD taken care of?
We haven't worked, it would be similar to a surcharge that we're doing with the MTA sites now, so we haven't developed a process for them unless we apply the same principles that we use at the 5 East and 6 West now.
So, if I may, Mr. Chair,
Absolutely.
looking at the monthly report that we're about to go over, and I'm a little bit surprised at the 500 to 600 BODs, because we've never, on an average, we've never gone over, well, my eyes could be bad, but it doesn't look like we've gone over 450 for any month, or average daily, so I'm confused. Are these spikes? Is that 500 to 600 a spike? Is it a?
The most recent surcharges that I had filed, I had gone back to Brian and say, are these numbers correct? We're at 1,600
Which means what?
For BODs?
for BODs in one testing, in 1 month.
All right, I'm confused.
So, I mean,
So we have 1,000 limit, 1,000 pounds per day,
1,000
but
pounds.
somehow we got to 1,600?
it was 1,600 on one of the months that we had.
Mr. Chairman, in general, again, I'm speaking in general terms here, is if a user comes along and causes, I'm saying here, causes our treatment plant to have to go and do studies, then that should be on the applicant. I think that's just part of the application. I don't think that should be at our cost.
Agreed.
Okay, with that being said. And the other thing is that,
You're referring to,
I'm
triage.
just saying in general,
Yep.
in general, no matter who comes along, if in fact they're gonna be putting in a big load, heavier than a house load, then if in fact it puts us being sewer department situation, we have to do studies, and those studies are I think should be going by the applicant. And also, it's, I think that obviously, again, who the applicant is, we've got to be careful about exactly what, what we're doing here, or at least what we're committing to. And also, is that if we're going to agree to committing to a heavier weight, is the applicant needs to realize that at any point in time, we can go and say, we need you now to become more conservative about what you're sending us, so you're gonna have to kick up the pre-treatment process in order to lower those loads. So again, just so that I would think that everyone has a clear understanding of that. And if I'm not mistaken, and again, I think at any time, we can say to the MTA that they need to reduce their BODs, and also they're not only requiring them to pre-treat. So if we do that and they reduce them, then we obviously would have to surcharge. That would have to come down.
Is ammonia directly related to the BOD?
Ammonia's all by itself.
Ammonia's by
It's a-
itself.
it's a-
BODs,
okay.
TSS, and ammonia.
Yep.
So, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
First of all, it sounds like we're already over our current capacity as measured, if we're hitting 1,600 on a given day. So, applicant aside,
Well, that's 1,600 milligrams per liter is what we got for the highest readings.
Yes.
It's not 1,600 pounds.
So it's not 1,600
Okay.
pounds.
We've got to get the,
We got 1,600 milliliters, and then you do it 8 times 8.34 times 1.9 gallons a day. There's an equation that comes out to pounds per day. Okay.
So that's on your highest milligram.
1,600 is the highest that I've seen so far. Yes.
specifically just from
The MTI.
MTA.
1,600 milligrams.
Milligrams per liter, not pounds.
Okay.
Not pounds.
Right.
Got it.
Two different things.
So at some point, we already have a challenge. We have a single user who's consuming 50 to 60% of our capacity.
Right, and that's what,
BODs.
right, and that's why they should be paying 50 to 60% of the bill value. And what has happened over the last few years is that it's continuing, as far as the income goes, that's continually dropping. So it's a matter of getting back on line with the surcharge.
To answer Rob's question, at section 4, paragraph 165, subpart 40, if in your sewer use bylaw, if any wastewaters contain the substances or possess the characteristics enumerated in Article 4 of these regulations, and Article 4 is a long regulation that deals with certain industries, certain discharges, this meets those criteria, the board, you may B, require pre-treatment to an acceptable condition for discharge to the public sewers. Elsewhere in this, you've got the right to require payments for analysis from applicants. That's, I forget exactly, I can find that for you
So
later.
it's already in there.
But you've got the right to require the applicant to pay those charges. So I don't think there's any question at all that you've got a right to do it. Whether or not this particular business is one of those licensed under the industrial standards in the EPA code, I don't know. But it clearly does meet the discharges, unusual discharges in Section 4, which gives you the right to require pre-treatment.
Hi, my name is Chair. BOD TSS, that's the end all be all at this point, right?
Excuse me?
This is the most important number when it's coming for anybody, who doesn't quite understand wastewater.
And the ammonia too is
Correct,
important also.
But these are more important than the gallons per day,
Yes,
right?
your load is, yeah, absolutely.
Correct.
Yes.
So, okay, just people at home and everybody kind of understanding what we're talking about. It's-
Right, it's what you're saying. It's
This
the
is strength.
It's just
That's
exactly
strength.
the strength.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, You know, we could have 10 million gallons a day, but you know,
Yeah,
this is
200 mil, yeah.
exactly
Yeah,
this is what matters.
Yes.
And there were times we referred to it as the difference between the household is equal to skim milk, and then some of these loads are equal to heavy cream.
Yes.
So it's and again, that you can understand. One's kind of light and easy to go with, the other one is kind of heavy and sticky and tough to work with. So then to carry that through, if we're still on the milk scheme, is that we can require those who have a heavy cream discharge to go retreat it so it comes out nice and thin.
Not 1%, but you know,
Yeah, whatever, maybe 2%, yeah.
Yeah,
Goes
point
in
taken.
scoopers if you like.
Okay. Brian's here, so.
If you wanted to go over a little bit more of these, I mean,
Did you
from here.
I want Steve, are you all done with this now?
If you wanna check this
Wait.
number.
Excuse me, if I may, Mr. Chair. What does that find me? I mean, we just spent 15 minutes talking about something. Next?
Well, no, we don't,
no.
almost, because I think, well, first of all, is this application that's coming is gonna be for over 10,000 gallons. So automatically puts it into that we have to vote on it. The commission is gonna approve it. Any application of 10,000 gallons or greater has to be approved.
It's my understanding we've already given commitment
Which
to
is
the
fine.
brewery to connect.
Yeah.
So I think what we're asking for is, hey, we need to do this study. And then who's gonna pay for it?
Exactly. That's what I was putting on the table, so I have a direction to go in.
And we don't yet have an applicant. Correct? We don't yet have an application.
Yes, we do.
We do.
We have an application that is restricted. The application is to tie into a stub. There's another application that will come to tie into the building. Likewise for water. They did get an application that allowed them to connect the stub for water and to sewer.
Right. So, do we need to vote, or you have a direction? Sorry, Mr. Chair.
No?
I'm looking for direction as to who and what I do to go back to get a pre-treatment process done. Because the last time it was here, it was left with, well, we think that because you should have known, this commission should pay for this part of it. So, is that where we're going, or are we going back to the applicant and say, before we go any further, you're gonna have to do this?
Don't we already have verbiage that it's gonna go back on the applicant regardless?
Suggestion, Mr. Chairman, I suggest you pass a motion that says the Water Sewer Commission requires the Treehouse Brewery to undergo a analysis for pretreatment requirements in connection with their application, and further, pursuant to the sewer use bylaw, that they pay all costs associated with that analysis. Words to that effect.
That's your motion, Joe.
All right.
Sounds good.
Make a motion that the applicant, Treehouse Brewery, pay for the required studies, which is an MHL and an MAIL,
And I'll do a letter tomorrow.
in accordance with our bylaws.
I'll do a letter tomorrow over the chair's signature, notifying that you've taken this vote and put them on notice it's gonna happen.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And further authorize the chair to sign on behalf of the commission.
Yep, second. Got a second, Paul, any discussion?
We got one discussion. When it comes back to communication with Brian and his company, do we take care of that? Does that get billed part of that? Because it's going to be, you know, additional above and beyond work.
Yeah, it should be through the administrator where we commission the work and hand them the bill. I'm sorry, pass the bill to the applicant, right?
Okay.
Yes.
No, I'm just, making sure because there's going to be above and beyond kind of work being done. I just didn't know if we handle that end and then, they pay for their own.
We're all in agreement that where they're at in their process right now to tie into that stub is considered applicant. So there's no question about that. What their intent is, okay?
Yes.
There's
So-
two ways you can have them pay. They can be required to make a deposit
Yep.
under a statute in Massachusetts, and you've already got the account set up because you do this occasionally with applicants. And then You spend down the deposit, and at the end of the study, any money left goes back to them. If the study requires more money than the deposit, they have to make it. Or if they're in agreement, once they get the letter and they say, okay, we're fine with this, then you hire the consultant that you want, and we just send them the bill. So either way, we get to check with the town accountant, the exact procedure, but one way or the other, they pay the bill, not the ratepayers.
Any other discussion?
No.
Take a vote.
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain.
Aye.
All those in favor, is that what the request was?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Sorry. Aye.
Aye. Make it
So,
official.
abstain.
Yeah,
That was first.
Yeah.
Rob abstained. Sorry, Joe.
I didn't know what I was agreeing to. Could have said all those against. I would have said, no, I didn't vote against it.
All right, so this is, we're good here?
Mr. Chairman, just
Yep.
to be clear, as you preferenced before that vote, is that it's understood that their connection is a lot, or at least for that.
Right, they put their application in.
And it's gonna be a lot.
Yep.
I think we made that
I
motion the
thought-
last time, right?
I thought they'd be happy with the Senate.
But yeah, because you abstained from
Yeah.
it up there,
Yeah.
if memory serves me.
Because the building, everything's allowed, it's just about the brewery waste,
Right.
right? I think is where we're at, so.
Okay.
Pictures make me happy.
You're welcome. All right, the treatment plant. No permit parameters, violations for the month of June. The pumps for EQ1 tanks are in at UPS, and the work is actually, I talked to them today, they will be on Wednesday morning, and it should be finishing up Thursday afternoon sometime. I got a hold of Ed LaForte, he'll be in on Thursday to do the electrical for it. And this took place just in the nick of time. Because both pumps are not working now, okay? It's in the second sentence, but I kind of, all right, I went to go pump out the tank for them. They take measurements for slide rails and stuff like that. They need the pump on it to pump anything. So I ended up opening up the trash pump and pumping it over to the EQ tanks with the trash pump. So this drought that we're in is kind of a blessing in disguise. And like I said, they will be on Wednesday, finish all the work, everything should be good to go. And hopefully this is put to rest.
Which pumps are these?
These are EQ Tank 1.
What's those for?
Those are for, that's where the main waste comes into the plant,
Okay.
into that tank. And those pumps will pump up to the clarifier,
Gotcha.
okay? As a matter of fact, you guys will be in on Wednesday morning to do the work, to pump it out for us. And we'll hose it down and clean it as best we can. We'll just put it right back into the front of that box.
Okay.
Okay, so both the pumps failed to evacuate the tank. Okay. Plant maintenance has been very busy these past few months. We've been taking advantage of the good weather. Just power washing clarifiers and tanks and anything that's outside that's been dirty laying around. We've been cleaning it up. The tanks are really looking good out there. Some of the more dimensional maintenance that took place was we replaced the oil. The oil in the splitter box got changed out. The belt on the biofilter was replaced. The sodium bicarbonate pump feed line was replaced. And what I figured what I would do is I will start listing some of the plant electrical issues in a separate paragraph on its own to make it a little bit easier to pick out of the executive summary here. So if you guys need to go back and look at some of this stuff, it'll be, instead of trying to read the whole thing, I'll put them in here by date. Okay, so on the 8th, after the generator shut down, RBCs 9 to 10 needed to be reset twice manually, and the Comax sludge needed to be reset once. On the 15th, upon the generator startup, the polymer feed pumps were flashing fault, but they stayed running. So we reset that manually also. On the 16th, we installed the UPS units in Headworks. Also on the 16th, National Grid came in to install the voltage power monitoring system outside. On the 22nd, upon generator shutdown, we lost the Comac sludge pump again. On the 24th, the plant experienced a power surge. National Grid was called in to retrieve the data from the voltage logger. It was later learned from National Grid that the voltage logger was programmed incorrectly and no data was logged from that event. Okay? On the 28th, National Grid came back in and reinstalled the voltage recorder again. Okay? Let's
They had any recordable events since?
We had one surge come through the plant.
We asked the question, nobody's been out to record.
Nobody's gotten back to us on that one yet.
Excuse me, Brian.
Yep.
We had talked about it at this last meeting. Is there a specific time during the day this happens, or does it happen at the night, or is it?
Well, this is what I'm trying to get some kind of a pattern going. Alright, so we've been marking the dates and what in the plant was, like the generator exercising, was it not exercising? And some of these take place after the generator shuts off. Okay, but that's some of them. It's not all of them. You know, so
You
I'm
mean
trying to
when you
establish
go-
some sort of a pattern.
Because if you're exercising the generator, you go offline, off
Yep.
National Grid, go on the generator,
Yep.
the generator gets a load put on it, then you say, fine, we're gonna switch off, and then you come back onto National Grid.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
So,
That's-
so you're exercising under load.
We're exercising under load, yes. That's it. As it should be. Where it's been doing that for the last 17 years.
Have almost all of these happen during daylight?
No. Some of them happen at 2 o'clock in the morning. You know,
Okay.
like I said, I'm trying to get some kind of a pattern going.
Right.
But after dark is very rare. Very rare. We only had like 1 or 2 episodes where it happened, late in the morning.
Because one of the thoughts is what's happened new.
It's possible that there's something wrong with the generator. Yes.
No,
That's,
the 6 megawatt solar farm, that's 1 street away, that's tied into the lines. And whether that is causing surges or not causing surges. So that, again, that's something that, if you get a chance to talk to those people, that needs to be looked at. At least I
absolutely.
would think that needs to be looked
That's
at.
online now.
It's online now, it's been
Oh,
online
okay,
since, I think last January.
Steve, that's when we looked at the sewer, like, on top of the hill? No, different one now?
If
It's
you,
6 or 7.
if you went out the back door and took a right-hand turn
Yeah.
and walked 700 feet, you're in the solar field. So that's how close it is.
Really?
Yeah.
Up off of Stafford, or,
No.
Capitol.
Capitol.
Capitol. Yeah.
I'll
Almost a
definitely
beginning.
ask him that question.
Beginning
Yeah,
of
that's a
project.
good question. Very valuable. So hopefully, we can start to get some answers now that National Grid has that thing hooked back up correctly and everything. For the pump stations, we installed the Rayco alarm agents on North Main Street. 5 more of these units to install, and all the pump stations will be upgraded to the new systems. We had a power interruption at 4 pump stations due to a utility pole struck by a vehicle. The outage lasted for approximately 6 hours. The pump stations that affected were Vine Street, Glen Echo Shore Drive, North Sturbridge, and Stevens Park. The on-call operator and myself worked together to make sure the pump station stayed compliant during the duration of the power loss. Everything went very smooth. There was no issues with that. They said it was going to last for 6 hours, and they were right on the money. Miscellaneous, there were no new pump upgrades to the system this month. We had 5 grinder pump calls, of which 2 were clogged from grease. 2 new resident grinders pumps needed to be replaced, one for excessive grease, the other one from a broken propeller. Sampling of the sewer lines have continued this month. We sampled Bay Path, the top of the hill, the cross country, Masonic the bottom of the hill, Masonic the top of the hill, the manhole next to the fire station / concrete. And any other questions or the answer?
The grinder pump calls, are these usually the older grinder pumps or some of
No,
them?
these are two new ones, that's why I mentioned them in the report, there are two new pumps.
No, when, I'm talking about the five alarms, five grinder pump alarm calls.
Yep.
Were those all, that was a mixture of new and old, or was
Well,
that
if
mostly
it, if it is old, we'll give them the paper to upgrade to the new system.
Okay.
Yeah. And,
Because
right
what I'm
off the
getting,
top
I
of
guess,
that-
Brian, is are you getting, or at least we hope that we're getting much fewer calls on the new equipment than
Oh,
on the old
absolutely,
equipment?
absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. Highlighted in blue were the brand new pumps, okay, that,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, two in blue, actually the top three were new systems.
And what happens when you go and do a repair and you find excessive grease, which means operator error?
Correct. We let Steve know. And then,
Are
yes.
those people find Steve, or do they
Yes,
give a
they're
warning?
fined under the depositing unacceptable stuff into the grinder pump. It's $100 fine.
All right. And there's always, you have grace, one grace period, or one grace?
There was one
incident?
grace period per resident,
Okay.
per,
Okay. Good.
But if I may, Mr. Chair, just to be clear, so these are 3 pumps that are less than
2 years.
2 years old?
Yeah.
But there were, of the 3 pumps, you didn't replace
Well,
the
one has
pumps.
a broken impeller. That's
Yeah,
the
that
one.
was manufacturer, fault, you know what I mean, so that should be under warranty. I don't see any problem with that.
Well, excuse me, Brian, even if it wasn't under warranty, the impellers are replaceable, aren't they?
On that particular style of pump, no.
So the impellers aren't replaceable?
No.
Oh, that's all.
Yeah, we gotta pull the whole thing out. It's not just the impeller that gets replaced, it's the housing that goes with it, too. It's one more part that comes right down on it.
Okay. So it is a part you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a grinder and an
It's a
impeller,
grind-
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the grind is underneath and then
Yeah.
the impeller's
So the
above.
impeller's on top.
Okay. Thank you. And that, again, Brian, you and your man have done a very nice job. Nice work. Looks great.
Thank you, appreciate it. I'm gonna look into this other number here too. See where that stands, yeah, okay.
How many more sites are left for
We
testing?
got one more to do at Carl's Stores. We went to sample it before, but we were unable to pull the sample because of very low flows. So we got a hold of McClure, and they got a hold of this guy Kevin. And
So you're
tomorrow,
gonna coordinate?
tomorrow morning we're going back in and put the sampler, and then what they're gonna do is they're gonna get the pumps in hand and give us more of a constant flow instead of all at once at 11 o'clock. Because you lose prime in it, you know, if you have an empty sewer for 4 hours and then all of a sudden they turn the pumps on and you get a little bit of flow, the system's already lost prime. That will definitely be taken care of tomorrow. And the other one that we didn't do was the middle school because you guys weren't sure if you wanted to make that.
Middle school in Baker, I would think
Schools
that.
out.
Schools out.
That was my next question about
Yeah,
pay.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, you could do it now and
No, it's no fault. Yeah, speak on it.
So I would take it that we would retest the schools when September starts. And if there's any other ones that you guys want to redone, you know, Gleneco Shore or anything like that, just say the word. You know, let Steve know and we'll set up the sampler.
Now those samplers, can you do the TSS and BODs on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So is that where you're kind of getting some of these rates for the
The sampler pulls out, it pulls a sample
5
every 15 minutes. Okay, it'll pull a 100 ml sample every 15 minutes. At the end of your 24 hours, you'll have about 3.5 gallons of liquid.
Yep.
That liquid is then, you shake it up to make sure you get any sediment that's settled on the bottom. Shake it up. Depending what we're testing for, we either go into reserve bottles, which are nitric acid or hydrochloric, or non-reserve bottles, which are just empty gallon jugs. put them in there, and we send them off to the lab, and then they test the BODs, the ammonia, the phosphate, nitrates.
But we have a tester up at what, 5E? Isn't there?
There is an ISCO sampler on site for both of the MTAs,
Okay.
but we're not using those because they wanted it to be consistent with the machine that you guys bought.
So we have a benchmark around.
Okay. Well, I'm just going back to this original sheet of the 500 to 600 pounds a day. Wouldn't that tell you how much is coming from them?
No, because at the flow station where I went back and I checked on there, at the flow station it's only the MTA that goes there.
Correct.
Okay. When it goes down to the pump station, then you have absorbers that goes in there and residents, and the same thing at 6 West. So we took the samples right where the pipe comes from the MTAs. And the 5 East MTA sampler is right on, they're both right there, right on the wall.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. So can't you then take those numbers and figure out whatever their BOD loading is?
We do them twice a month, you know. all the
Okay.
time.
So how does that correspond to this estimated 500 to 600 pounds per day?
I need to do the calculation on that.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to.
Okay. That's all I'm getting at, because I just want to know. I mean, numbers are numbers, but if they're, you know what I mean. I just want to make sure they're accurate, because we're about to make some decisions here.
If this is an average, you know what I mean, from what Steve's got, then, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't trust Steve, I'm just saying I'm just gonna double check.
No, exactly. That's all. Because I mean, we got samplers there. That's,
Yeah.
that's the whole point of that stuff. So.
And the sampler does, 5 hours is what it does? or
24 hours.
24 hours?
24 hours.
Okay, so just one day.
One day, twice, 2 times a month.
So do you go there on a Tuesday or you go there on a Saturday? You know, which this could be totally different.
Yeah, exactly. We try to get one during the weekend, you know, at least one weekend of the month, and 1 weekday.
And holidays,
And, yeah, if it's on the 4th of July, we'll sample on the 4th of July,
Yep.
or something like that.
Okay. So, one, trying to get the right information.
And that's all about information. That's it. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Okay, and like I said, if you guys go down to it, we can discuss some treatment in the wet wells. That's what we're looking to do.
All right.
Okay, any other questions, guys?
Good. Thanks, buddy.
All right, guys, have a good night.
You too, Bill. Oh, Brian, real quick, how's the humidity in there?
Good,
Yeah,
very good, 55%. Can't beat that.
perfect.
Perfect,
You haven't
yeah.
had to run any dehumidifiers or nothing?
No, it's been very well.
Excellent.
Okay, we'll see you in the morning.
There's a couple of people on site.
So I guess we're ready for our next appointment, Mr. McClure.
Yes.
Right on that.
How's it going?
Great, you?
It's a fancy new sign you're gonna have to
Oh, you like that?
I like
Thank
that
you.
thing.
Yeah, I figured I'm only gonna do it once, so I might as well do it right? And who doesn't like to see their name in lights? There you go.
And that's Irish Kelly Green, is that?
That is Kelly Green, yes
Kelly
sir.
Green. So I was trying to go by, what kind of green is that? Is that Celtic green, Kelly Green, Irish green?
Yeah, Chicken Gail did a great job. So I was really impressed that. So yeah, we're just about almost in there. So it was a loss, and then the electrician came today, so it'll be lit up tonight in case anybody wants to take a drive by. Put your sunglasses on. So a couple of things, I just wanted to go through an update list. Obviously lots going on. I think from our last meeting, you've probably been kept abreast as far as the Route 169 water line project. It kind of was going off track a little bit, and I was able to get in touch with Kevin and Robin, and they righted that train pretty quickly. There was an issue with the email correspondence going into junk mail, and so there was, I guess it was a non-communication, but thankfully I had been in touch with Kleinfelder, and we've been having these open conversations relative to the project and the commission's desire to move these things along, and trying to get an update, and they're saying, well, you know, when I'm hearing this stuff, I'm able to bring it back and keep on it. So within the next couple of weeks, that water line is supposed to start. It's supposed to, that's the latest that. So that's good.
Pipe has been ordered.
Pipe has been ordered, from what I'm told, and so next couple of weeks they should be starting to lay that 16-inch pipe. Also, the surveyors are going to be in town starting tomorrow. They have a health and safety meeting in the morning, and then they're going to be going to the various areas where the additional survey is required. It's not it's H. Putnam Road, not the extension. It's Hammerock and Dodge Lane. Hammerock and Dodge Lane. Masonic Home up to the overlook, and they still haven't gotten the on-site utilities marked up at the overlook, but they're in the process of doing that as well, so they'll survey the overlook at Masonic Home as well. And we also need to make some decisions relative to the property where we want to locate the pump station tonight, so that they can direct the surveyors in the for the appropriate work in that area as well. So those are the final design numbers. Tara from Kleinfeld will also be in town on Wednesday to visit both Mass Ave tank and the Inhill Road tank, so they can finalize their design on the mixers. Accessibility, power to those areas, and just to confirm the information that's been provided to them by Southbridge. The tank composition and how they could tap into these tanks for those mixers. So.
Chris, will we have any input on the mixer here in town?
Yeah, sure. When the design comes through, right now they were provided information a couple years back. Southbridge had went through the process of evaluating mixer options for those tanks, specifically for Mass Ave tank. So they had looked at the Solarby, the PAX mixer, and a TideFlex. TideFlex is a non-mechanical mixer, but due to the configuration of their inlet and outlet pipes on the Mass Ave tank, they've kind of ruled out the TideFlex. And so it's a non-mechanical, so they're looking at two mechanical mixers. So it's either going to be between the Solarby and the PAX, and both of them have that solar capability. So, but yeah, that design, the recommendation, the design will come through. Obviously, we have the PAX mixer that's in the Charlton tank, not that that one's operational, but to maintain some consistency.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing with that. So that's Route 169 status update. That is the booster pump station survey. I think we
Chris,
talked.
we're gonna come back to an executive session on the pump station,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. What about 232, the easement language for 232 Stafford Street? That's the Spoda property. Can we talk about that in this meeting here? I guess we could.
Yeah, there's no reason we can't talk about that.
There's a question on that, Chris. That's an easement on a town road, correct?
It is an easement on a private way, utility easement on a private way in both cases. Timber Valley Road is a town road, and that's where the existing water lines lay. They basically lay between Stafford Street and Timber Valley. It's going to go up St. Mary's Way. It's going to be a private way with a subdivision that's a proposed subdivision, 2 or 3 house lot subdivision, and then it would have to go cross country across between 2 private properties. So there's going to be an easement across that private property.
So the commission is being asked to grant the easement?
The commission's being asked to review the language of the easement to ensure that it meets
What the commission needs.
the commission needs for ongoing utility maintenance. So there was a temporary easement enclosed and permanent easement, a temporary construction easement and a permanent water line easement for both the properties in question. My question was, based upon what's been done in the past, we did provide some examples of this easement that we've used in the past, and whether or not this easement language is going to go to town council for review.
I don't know what your practice is, so I don't know what to recommend, but generally speaking, unless this is a boilerplate that you've used in the past and it's been found acceptable by council, generally you'd send it to your attorney to look at. Yeah, I know, I hate doing it too, trust me, but on the other hand, unless this is something you've used before and this is a standard thing, this is language proposed by ExxonMobil, correct?
This was language requested through the commission, myself, Southbridge. So it was kind of, and I know that there has been some easement language specifically for the storage tank, the Charlton storage tank on that private property owned by.
I thought this was sent to the lawyer. 232 Stafford? Didn't you get language back? I remember talking about it over the winter.
Long time ago. And I thought we were gonna use Southbridge, what Southbridge usually use.
Yeah.
That's what I thought we were gonna use. So is that what's been put together?
Yeah, that's basically what's been put together.
So this is standard language that Southbridge uses for these kinds of easements.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Will be fine?
No, that's my point. As long as somebody's put eyes on it in the past.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
said,
Yeah.
because you get
We've taken this
access,
once before.
access, egress, and construction access. And you want to be sure that you've got all the rights and prerogatives that you're going to need in the future. So if that's standard language that they've used for it, then more than likely it's fine.
And Mr. Chairman, I believe that we have said is we want a construction easement that's gonna be wider.
Right.
And then once it's in, we need something not
Then
as
it-
wide as just a little repair, not that. Construction, we need definitely more space to construct.
And that's basically what has been presented, 30-foot wide temporary construction easement, and then a 20-foot wide permanent easement. And obviously, we had a discussion, that they're gonna need to have the surveyor out there define these easements, set them on a plan, and refer to them as attachments on a recorded plan, just so they're not just described in this legal language. We need to have them.
Just need a motion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, make a motion that we send this out to attorney for review. As far as the language goes.
Second.
Second.
For discussion, any discussion?
Just a note to go along with it that this is language that was put together with the cooperation of Southbridge.
So Steve, I guess, right? Send that out to the lawyer.
Yeah, the administrative center?
I can do that. You want it to go to Colton Page, you want it to go to town council? Probably get a faster turnaround at town council.
So, Mr. Foster.
Yeah. That has to be added into to Rob's motion.
Yeah,
Town
sure,
council.
yeah. Town council, Jim Cosgrove.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Passes unanimously. Can I hold up one? Did you want to do this?
Yeah, that's why I came back. I'm sorry.
I thought you missed us.
Yeah.
Steve passed that on to me, so I don't know if you. you wanna pass that around? Is there more copies of that, Steve?
I can make more.
This is the same
Don't worry.
quote that you came up with at the
Yes,
last
yeah,
meeting of the
yep.
fiscal?
Yep. This is the influent flow meter. I was wondering if we can approve this to replace the one that's broken in our influent flow meter now.
I thought we already did. No? No?
We replaced them a couple of years ago, I know Jody was saying, that we had for 13,
I thought you
14.
brought this up like a month ago or something.
He did, at the
Yes.
June meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You approved the pumps,
Cause I thought,
EQ pumps, not the
Okay.
inflow. We're gonna do a little at a time.
Yeah.
So there
I
was.
mean-
We don't do a whole thing, you know, it's-
well, to me, I just look at that's under the R&M or
Yeah,
whatever it is.
Okay, we'll do it.
Well, yeah, it's over my 2,500. So the electrical cleaning for Elm.
Does that quote include install and everything?
This is installed, calibrated the whole 9 yards to ISO cal, yes. And then,
Cause right now you only have an outflow, you don't have an inflow.
And that's gonna be down Headworks, right?
that's gonna be in Headworks, yes. But we're having a little bit of issues with the no flow going through the plant.
Yep.
We're not sure if it's accurate or not because the flow meter's broken.
What's the estimated cost?
44.98.
Mr. Chairman. Brian, what's the installation estimate, time, live?
How long would that take Don to install that? I'd say a day.
Okay, and
Maybe
they're
a day and a
scheduled to
half?
go ASAP if the commission approves it?
Yeah, I would call Don.
And this is a maintenance item, correct? On the maintenance account?
Well, it's over my $2,500. I need
Right.
approval.
But it's
Yeah,
an
but
item out of the maintenance
still-
account.
R&M.
Yeah.
If you want me to take the 44.98 out of the R&M, then I mean I can take it off of that.
Unless the
We're-
council says
we're over-
otherwise. and the
we're over
commission says
estimates.
otherwise, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Isn't this equipment? Where are we on equipment?
I have room in the capital budget, if that's where it's come from. That kind of level probably should be.
And also, Brian, what information will this give you towards, as far as the big picture goes?
As far as the big picture goes, we'll make sure we're actually discharging our effluent, what our effluent flow meter says too. When we have spikes that come in through the plant, that thing says sometimes it's 1.2 million gallons.
Right.
It's really that amount that's going into the plant.
So it's just to check the first one?
It's not only to check the first one, it's, we've been having an issue lately where 2 o'clock in the morning, there's absolutely no water comes in the plant, it's bone dry.
Okay.
Is it really bone dry? You know what I mean? It's making our clarifiers, you know, start having all the flock raise up to the bottom of it and stuff like that.
Cause that will change, that ties into the computer, then tells it to use less chemicals or this, that, or everything else, right?
In the SCADA system.
Correct. Cause as of right now, you're only judging, you're treating off your outflow,
Correct.
right?
And all SCADA's all set up to accept it?
SCADA, yeah, it's in there now. It's just,
So
that
that's-
is so old it doesn't hold the calibration anymore. So set points are in the SCADA system.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion that we go forward with the purchase of the piece of equipment not to exceed $4,500.
Do you want that out of capital?
It should come out of capital.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion?
What's the specific name of the,
Inflow and flow meter?
okay, just add that to the
Open
motion.
channel flow monitor.
Okay, channel flow monitor. Thank you.
Motion and a second, no discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Chair votes
Thanks,
aye.
sorry for
Passes
bugging you.
unanimously.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks,
No
Brad.
problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So, yeah, so basically that's the, long and short of it. Things are moving along. And, Kleinfeld does also have a meeting with, Dewberry to discuss the, start looking at the pressures in the hydraulic model to start the design for both the Bay Path High School pump station as well as the Masonic Home Road pump station.
So they've already determined Sonic Home needs pump station?
They haven't determined that. They're looking at that. They'll meet with Peter, determine if Peter needs some additional flow tests done, hydrant flow testing done, and see where that model, you know,
And what about, are they gonna also look at the hammering?
the hammering as well. Yeah. Yes,
That's key.
that's key. Yeah. We were just down at Cap Crossings Lobis, and Steve and Andy Martinez were on site, and I videoed it just so they could see the rapid movement of that pressure swing, and it drops from 80 to 110. While we're sitting there watching it. So, and additionally, I discussed with the commission last week. I tied my new building into water, and while they installed a meter, I knew I needed a pump. They had told me that they probably thought the pressures were good there, and I said, well, I'd like you to activate that line. Let me put a pressure gauge on it, so I can review make a determination on what type of booster pump I'm going to need in my building, and the pressure, again, sitting there would bounce between 50 and 20 psi. Now that's on the upstream side of the PRV. The same swings, obviously different pressure levels, or seeing them on the downstream side.
Does the tank need an altitude valve?
The Hammond Hill,
I'm not that familiar with the system. But
yeah.
would an altitude valve help on the discharge side of the tank?
Steve had said that they were going to have flow right back at the PRV vault. He didn't expect to hear about the pressure swings above the PRV. He thought everything would be below. Flowrite is proposing to put a low flow bypass on that PRV,
Okay.
because they think maybe that it's open and shutting rather quickly, and they're getting that hammer within the water line. So,
So work almost like a soft start on a pump.
right, exactly, yeah. So they're all, I told them that this, obviously, Dewberry would be looking at it. I did think that if they had a pressure transducer that they could, or recorder, if they would be kind enough to install it so that we could, while Peter is running flow tests, we could also be, monitoring the pressure readings over duration of days and weeks, so that he could calibrate his model with that to see if they could. Obviously, it needs to be resolved prior to, it's going to have a major effect on the pump station design.
That's one of the major things.
Those pressure swings.
Yeah. Is there any room in the design phase? I don't know if this has even been talked about, but there's going to have to be some kind of SCADA controls for the water side of the house. Is there any way we can get the PRVs tied into SCADA so that they can be actively tracked? So we can use it for monitoring on our side.
We'd have to come up with a just.
Or can you bounce it off Peter to see if that's
Sure.
a reasonable thing to ask during this process?
Alex, what does the valve you talked about, the altitude valve, do at the tank?
Most tanks typically have a single pipe.
Right.
If by doing so, you
Yeah.
bypass. It's got a check valve on it, and it reduces. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it reduces your head coming out of the tank to even out your flows. Is that
That's
simplest?
what happens. Yeah.
So the check valve's at the tank, which allows water to come in and fill the tank, but then when the pump's shut off and you're
It
on
doesn't allow
gravity,
the backflow.
it forces it through the altitude valve, which is similar to a PRV, and it kind of smooths out pressures.
When the pump shuts off,
Yeah, because
or turns on.
no, because what
Let's say you got a what? You saying if you got like a 20 psi swing from the tank filling to
No, it's only 6 feet. It comes on at 6 feet.
no, but what
yeah, but those could be set those set parameters can be set differently.
They can, but again, I'm trying to determine is when you're talking a 25 to 30 pounds of pressure, times 2.5, that's 50, 60 feet. And we just don't have it in our system. Because when the Mass Ave pump station is off, and that tank is at its regular level, then everything should be nice and smooth. There shouldn't be any problems.
Should?
No, they
But
shouldn't.
that's not the case.
No, it's not the case. And the
So-
thing is, the only thing that's affecting it is when the water goes down the hill is where you got that PRV valve. If it's malfunctioning, which I think that the bets are on the fact that that thing is malfunctioning. Where it's open, close, and that gives it the kickback. You know, action, reaction.
Yeah, but on the high side of the PRV, right,
Yep.
if
It's
there's a
nutrition.
drastic change in pressure, the PRV shouldn't reflect that because of the settings of the diaphragms and needle valves on the PRV.
Okay, but it's the only
Then
thing in the system.
the PRV's in failure and it needs to be addressed.
Okay. Then I thought we were gonna send a letter.
But
Did we send, Steve, did we send a letter about the PRV, what we thought 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
thought we
Chris
mentioned
just
it
said
in-
they're sending flow control back out.
Flow rate, yeah.
Flow right back out to the.
Okay, all right,
my point to the whole thing is if it's something other than the PRV that someone's missed over time,
yeah.
excuse me, now is the time to get it addressed in whatever
Well,
fashion.
I'm
it's
with
done.
you. By all
but-
means, now don't forget, this is the situation that, up at Charlton Center at the Four Corners, the homeowner there was complaining about.
Incredible.
Can't see the picture, you?
Well, I just wanna-
That's it.
See, we ran into this last year, and it was a failed PRV,
It's a field PRV?
but we had Ross, it's a Ross, Ross is right out of New York. Ross sent the tech out 3 times, and now.
So that's 10, you can't go any higher because of that meter doesn't allow it.
Yeah.
But it was down at 80 when you started.
It was down at 80, yeah, and then it's up over 110.
So you just have to replace the PRV.
No, he came out and rebuilt it twice, and reset all the settings. But our PRV is also tied to our SCADA, so we can see trending. So,
Yeah, that would be helpful.
So, if the PRV is working perfectly, what would the pressure be?
whatever you set it to, I'm not trying to be,
No, I'm
it's
just.
what you set it. So if the pressure coming down the hill is, say, by default, because of the elevation, is at 150 PSI, it's 150 coming in, and by adjustments on the PRV and the diaphragm, and you want it, say, 80 on the discharge side. That's what it is. If the needle valve and/or diaphragm side has failed, now the pressure's going to go straight
Well, that's-
through and gain its velocity.
Yeah, so I guess
But
that's.
then what we found, it tends to do this bouncing mechanism when there's not even any demand or anything.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, so I guess that's what I was asking, like, okay, if that PRV valve was perfect, what would the pressure on the other side of it be?
We
over
estimated
100.
about 90.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think over 100's a little excessive.
Right.
But a smooth 90, maybe 1 or 2 PSI.
Not even, if they're
Yeah.
functioning right, it's, you set it at 90, it's gonna stay at 90 unless there's a huge
Yeah, like
flow
a fire
demand,
hydrant
like a
or
fire or something like that, or an industrial user.
You know, I think on the downhill side, that PRV valve is set for like 60 pounds, because it still has more downhill to go.
It's set at 70.
It's set at 70.
70, yeah.
So it's gonna gain a little bit, and you don't
Yeah,
wanna
it's
go
gonna
much
gain, yeah.
above 80 for household appliances.
Seems like it's not working.
I knew a fellow who
But
lives
we-
down in Charlton City, he said he could do almost like power wash last year.
Yeah,
It was
that's
that strong.
prior to those
But
adjustments.
the altitude valve also allows that smooth flow out of the tank too, on the discharge side. Just food for thought.
Okay, yeah, I mean, again,
Like I said, run it by Peter, he's been doing all hydraulics.
So we get a little pool going here, I say it's the PRV valve. You already said it.
Yeah.
That's basically all I have for updates, other than the water system map and discussion
Is
of
this
the
map you're talking about right here?
booster pump station, yeah, yes.
Are you still updating it, or is it all updated?
Well, we have, found a few things, we wanted everybody to take a look at it, sure if there's any issues, but, yeah, I need to add a couple of items.
What we talked about was the commission looking at it tonight and kind of deciding, does it do what you want it to do?
I can't
mean,
see it from here, I didn't
The
know that.
idea is to have a map so that you can look at it, transfer it. Basically, Chris has done is put everything on it that he's aware of. There's a couple of things that we know aren't on it. The loop down by the town line for that subdivision. It's got to be added. But once the commission says, yeah, this is what you want, then it's going to get transferred over to the town parcels map. And you'll have finally an accurate map of the system. After that, every time somebody extends it, they'll give you I guess it's a DVD,
Yes, yeah, an as-built,
as-built on a
copy, as-built,
DVD.
yep.
And then the GIS coordinator for the town will enter it onto the map. And so it'll be continually updated. And every time it gets updated, it'll have a little date put on it, so you'll know it's updated as of a certain date. That way you will, on a continuing basis, always have a current copy of the distribution system. But that's Chris's best effort to date. Subject to your approval, if you'd like to see it done different, colors different, something more
You
put
got
on
fire
it.
hydrants on there?
Mhm.
Oh, we have some well, I haven't put them, what I did was for proposed, so the proposed school loop, we didn't put
Right,
them in.
yeah, right, but the
But for the
existing
most part,
ones.
yeah, and I also have, a layer for gates that just, it gets really crowded,
Yeah.
depending upon what we have, so right now.
And these are all town-owned hydrants, there's no private hydrants in this system as we speak today.
Right, exactly, yes.
That's one thing I'd say, just make sure you, whatever's private.
There's no
Totally
private,
different.
hydrant shown on this.
Okay.
Chris, one question I'd ask is why are we doing this in a different color?
That was the,
Just sometime.
yeah, the existing, that's a 10-inch line. What is this other one here? Existing, and then from there, all the other water lines that have been put in were 12-inch lines.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's a 10-inch line. That's that 10-inch MTA line. Original shop water line.
Did a red before it,
Yeah.
So prior maps we had did not include the entire town.
Exactly. Yeah. It's there's a
From
lot
east
of
to
area
west.
we covered. So.
So there's an inactive line from here down to the town line,
Yep.
huh? Wow.
No, the inactive line is from
North
here. Yeah. So the blue would be active. The inactive would be.
Well, once the new system gets online, it's going to go all the way down to Carroll Hill.
Right, but what's this red line?
The red line is US Route 20, so we
Oh,
could
oh,
do
oh,
something
okay,
with
all right.
that. That's the other
That's-
thing. I'm
that's
trying to
pretty
do a
close.
main road, so we can look at another. Yeah, it's actually this magenta.
Okay, the magenta is the
Yeah.
existing with inactive.
So I could do away with the.
It's not a big, I just.
Yeah.
Yeah, we shut that off, right? We valved that off
We have, yes.
at the end of North Side so we could charge this.
And we've tested through right to Carroll Hill Road.
Right.
They're going to do the engineering while Stevens working.
Else-
Okay.
L. Stevens. Yeah, that was part of the original school loops. That was that design in the
No, that's already in there.
was already
Okay,
done.
okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And you'd be doing all the updates for this drawing to Kleinfelder to updates as a.
No, the updates that we're reviewing for this
No, no,
extension.
in the future,
Oh.
as they get accepted.
As they get accepted, I think Kevin just discussed it, and I don't know who the GIS coordinator is in town.
He's the conservation agent, he's part-time, and I don't really know what the GIS system capabilities are yet. I'm hoping that Chris, you do this on ArcInfo or?
ArcGIS, yes.
Okay.
Yes, Archie.
So what I'm hoping is that this software is compatible with the town's GIS software, should be
Yes, yes.
Most of them are.
So they can just transfer it, because the town should own the map. You know, we shouldn't, I mean, no offense to Chris.
No,
But every time there's a change in the system, an extension, whatever, we shouldn't have to pay, an engineer to plot it. That should be on the town's ArcInfo system. So, my hope is once the commission approves this and says, yep, this is what we like, looks good, or whatever you want changed, then I'll meet with him, probably Chris and I together, and find out what he can do, and then pass the baton. And then from that point out, once the base map is done, it's dated down in the corner, then any additions that get made will come with a as-built that will electronically update the map.
Just one layer, Chris? Because you said you have another layer that's like valves, hydrants.
yeah,
mains.
we were able to turn on and off the valves, and.
Is Todd's capability working with Art
Yeah,
enough that he can turn layers on and off? Or is he just gonna connect the dots and the coordinates you're gonna give him?
no, this map was developed, in conjunction with the CMRPC. CMRPC also, provided this mapping to the assessors.
How can I word this?
So for our use, if we
Yes.
need to go back and find valves and stuff like that, how do we right? Is that what you're getting at?
Partially, but in the future, if our GIS manager, is that his title?
Yeah, map,
All right,
something like that.
who's part-time, is he gonna have the ability to manipulate the layers and not inadvertently edit anything you have in here?
Yeah, it depends on how savvy he is with.
Do you have more than 2 layers? You get the
Should
pipes
have
and the
3.
valves?
Mains,
Yeah.
valves, and hydrants.
Yeah, and there's the other layers he should be comfortable with would be the property parcels and that type of thing. So, but those are all.
Hydrants already shown?
They are on this map, Rob, but there's not all the valves are.
No, and I understand about the
So
valves. I totally understand about
when
the
you
valves.
go to edit it, my concern is
Right.
is corrupting what we already have that's valid
Hmm.
inadvertently. I'm not saying judging anybody or anything like that, and messing up what we already have.
And I think, again, I'm
Does that make sense to
I'm sure
everybody?
the software has some blocks on it to.
Yeah, but he's gonna have to get into an edible to go in and make
Edibles
it.
to add, but not to delete.
Yeah, I want to quickly
I'm just
add
thinking of
for the
like-
commission's benefit, I don't know for a fact if the town GIS system yet can accept this. I don't know.
Okay.
Kevin, it's
Or-
the same thing, it's the same thing.
That's what I'm hoping.
Again, turn the clock back 4 years ago. It was the Central Mass system. I sat with Matt France for
Like
3 days. We did
offices.
almost all of this.
Is it not?
And then he just flopped back and forth.
Seven
Yeah, because this is what the assessors use.
Yeah.
It's the same software.
That's what I'm hoping,
Well,
is
it's
that the
key,
base
key.
map, do you know offhand, is the base map the parcels map for the town GIS
Yes,
system?
yes.
Okay.
And
That if he's got that, he should be able to create any overlay that you want, the pipes,
Exactly.
the hydrants,
Okay.
the valves.
and then coming after that is sewer.
Yeah, absolutely,
You know,
yeah.
with each
Now, that's a little more
landowner.
complicated, so.
Well, it's not that complicated.
But-
We paid 3 years in a row. We paid $1,500, $1,800 for the equipment, and we never got to use it. Someone was
No.
supposed to come and go click to each one of those, and they were gonna be logged in.
I haven't started that yet, but that's what I've gotta find out, and I've also gotta find out, in this case, Chris knew where everything is, because he's been the regular consultant on all the water. But we don't have that capability on the sewer side, so right now, we don't know anybody, one single source, that can say, I can put all the sewer lines on the map, so that's gonna be a little bit more of an effort to figure out how we're gonna get that done. I'm working on it. If anybody's got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Cause you got that old map somewhere around here that's, quite old, I think it's from the 90s or
Mr. Chairman, make a
something.
motion to accept this as the base map to be, to be a living document that we can add to it. And obviously, we don't want to subtract, we can't subtract, but we will want to add to it. Such as when next summer comes and when school starts going in, all that's gonna have to be added. But again, GIS guy, again, it's not big work.
I will get back to you with another report to let you know, hopefully, this has all been integrated on that overlay for the town owns and all good to go and up to date. And when we get that done, we'll produce a new map for you. It's got, like I say, it's gotta have the, down there, right by the Sturbridge line,
Upland Farms, yes.
Yeah, Upland Farms.
Farms, I know the hydrant that I'm missing over at the,
and I
Crest Hill
don't,
Road.
I don't know if there's gonna be anything that's gotta get added for Treehouse Brewery, or if that's just a stub, but whatever.
Well, they may or may not have private hydrants on property.
Okay,
Yeah, they would have private.
I'm
They would,
assuming they're
okay.
going to.
Yeah.
so there
meet all
probably
that.
won't be anything that needs to get added for that. But that should be done soon, and then, I'll get back to you and let you know that yep, it's all set, it's in the system, you know, boom, and here's a map, and we'll put it up here and probably give you all a copy of it.
So is it a motion? Second for discussion?
A second for discussion. So, do we also see connections at some layer?
Service connections?
No.
No. Don't.
Oh, now, what we have done during the betterment process is we were able to highlight all of these parcels that were at one point in time customers, Southbridge water customers. Now that goes back to, you know, a couple of years back, so it's
Sure.
not, but in this GIS, you can see all the parcels that are abut a water line, all the ones that abut an active water line, the ones that are actually customers, so.
At some point, the commission may want to have that added to a map, but that's gonna be some work to physically locate, because a lot of them, we don't have the GIS coordinates for
Right,
those
you get
gate
the car
valves.
catalog with poles, and the thing is with a metal detector, you can find them, and then you
Right.
take that stick and you go click,
Yep,
and that should log in the exact
Yeah,
coordinates
but
of where it is.
it gets, trust me,
It's pretty hefty,
That's what
I'm
they
sure.
did survey, that's what they do in
yeah,
survey.
but the
Yeah.
map
Yeah.
gets really
Map-
dirty
No,
at
no,
that point.
no, Alex, layers, it has to be layered. You can't- you
Even
can't
with
put it all
layers,
in one.
Rob, it gets really dirty
Yeah.
quick.
yeah, no,
get
they
tie
can be
cards.
surveyed and located, it's just a question of how many do we actually have
Okay.
GPS coordinates for, how many more would we have to pay to have somebody go do, and is it something you want done?
The base of this map, I believe we have all received it as a PDF file. And if you go to it, you can expand it, and again, you can see the properties. You can have a 100-foot wide property this big on your screen.
Yep.
And again, everything's laid out there.
But all someone has to do is tie those tie cards to the parcel in an electronic format, and then you can pull ties and it's there forever.
Right.
Yeah, that's another layer that could be built,
Right.
no problem. It's a matter of, is the source document, we
Accurate.
know we don't have a card for every single connection. We've got a lot, but we don't have 100%. So it's a question of,
Sounds
at
like a
some
great
point,
program
do you
for a
want?
college student.
Yeah, an engineering
Yeah,
kid
to
from
go-
Northeast, that's exactly what I was thinking, yeah. That's a
Yeah.
TBA, or TBD, to be decided.
Yeah.
Any other? That? Good. Anything else?
I'll be
Hmm?
in touch, Chris.
All those in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chairman, are you gonna do the executive session now, before Chris leaves, or at the end, or what do you wanna do? Because we do need to talk briefly, about pump station property.
In
For
executive session.
169, yes. Because I got some questions I've gotta ask you, a decision you need to make, and then we need to let, Kleinfelder know in the morning. And I wouldn't wanna be doing it in a public meeting. And it is one of the 7, 8 reasons that you can go in executive session to consider acquisition of real property, et cetera.
What about the
Before we go down the road of executive session, what about under old business contract operations?
yeah? Is that executive session or not?
No, that's not
That's
executive.
gotta be public.
I didn't know if we could talk about it then come out with a decision, but I didn't know.
That was real easy.
No, you're talking O&M contract for the,
Yeah.
no, that's public session.
Okay.
But if we go into executive session, we can't come back out to go into, can we?
Sure you can, as long as you report that you are going to come back into public session following the executive
I just
session.
didn't want to tie up.
Yeah,
that's-
Kevin, how much time do you estimate for us to be discussing the operating contract?
10 minutes,
If that,
if that,
if
yeah.
that, okay.
Chris, you mind hold
No,
on
I'm
for
good.
it? Okay.
Okay.
So,
And I don't think you need more than 10 minutes in executive session either, by the way.
Yep.
It's pretty
Yep.
straightforward, but I can't answer the
we're trying to
question.
bounce around. I
Nor
wanna
can
make
Chris
sure.
or Steve. You
Touch
You
the
need to
hammer.
brief in and you need to make a decision.
Good, so we're gonna go to a subcommittee report now? Alex, is that what we're gonna
I just
Yeah.
went through all the stuff and then go into it.
Yeah. Let's, can we get through all the new business and stuff first real quick? Doesn't look like there's anything too,
I think you're back at old business.
do? Administrative advantages?
yeah, that's what I was just looking at.
Did you finish your administrator's report, Steve?
No.
Okay.
So
So we're
administrators. report.
halfway through there and then we gotta go back to old business.
Sorry. So where'd you leave off, Steve?
Sewer plant.
Okay, go ahead.
Abatement warrants. I have several that I'm looking at that I believe need to be corrected. My goal would be to get a motion tonight that I can get 3 signatures on those abatement warrants so that I can get them up to the town hall first thing Monday morning, because those bills are due to be paid Monday.
We know we've got some bills that don't pass the eyeball test. We just look at them, we know they're wrong. So the process that you gotta go through, and it's gotta get done before Thursday, is, before they close the books on the fiscal year, is once we finish the work to identify them and what's the problem, then we need 3 of you to come in during the week and sign them. But the motion to allow you to do that has to be made here in the meeting. And then you sign them, we report them, and then we have to fix those bills and issue new bills. But we have no authority to do that, only commissioners can do that. Ideally, what I would have preferred, and it just hasn't been time, is that we would come to you tonight with the actual abatements done, and you'd look at them one by one, and we'd tell you what the problem is. But we're kind of jumping through hoops trying to get this figured out. What we know is that there's some that are obviously wrong.
How many of them
many?
are there?
How many?
Steve, how many?
28.
28.
Are these the ones that we just went over the other week that we?
These are the ones we just sent out 3 weeks ago, roughly.
It's 5%.
Yeah.
So
More than
that's 600
5%.
bucks.
No, these are ours.
Two-thirds of Title V. So it's roughly 30%.
Wow.
And I can't tell you as I sit here tonight, because I haven't laid eyes on these yet. I don't know what the problem is yet, but I'm gonna personally be looking at these to find out. They were supposed to have gone through what I call the eyeball test when they were issued. And that was the day after my surgery, and I obviously wasn't able to do that personally. But they were supposedly going through the eyeball test. Somebody physically took a look at it and said, okay, well, it doesn't appear that happened. Or if it did, it didn't happen the way it should have. Because now we're looking at them and giving them the eyeball test. Some people are calling back and, saying, hey, that's crazy. So Steve's gone through them all, and he's found all these that are obviously wrong that we've got to fix.
Is it all over billings, not any under billings?
I don't know I think the majority of them are over billing, but I don't know if they all are.
The majority.
Okay.
You only get calls for the overbills, Paul.
So that $436 bill I paid probably should, maybe an overbill?
You already paid it.
No, I've already paid it. Doesn't mean this can't not recoverable. Anyways, Mr. Chairman, make a motion that we allow any 3 of the 5 commissioners to sign the abatement warrants that will be coming up
This week.
I have a second on that.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Vehemently opposed.
Discussion?
What are you approving 3 commissioners to sign?
The corrections that Kevin and our administrator are gonna be making on
Okay.
billing, and we don't know what they are.
That we
haven't
took,
seen
that we
them
took a month
ourselves.
and a half to create.
But when we see
But in the
one,
next 4 days, we're gonna fix them, because now we've identified them all.
The only other alternative
faith.
to this motion would be for us to post a meeting for you for Thursday, and then the 5 of you, or however many would come in at a posted meeting and review them. You can do it that way too, but we're trying to avoid having to do that, and this is the only way I could come up with.
Joe, I share your frustration. I truly do. I'm just thinking of customers who need to get this squared away. So, we've got to put our own house in order after the fact. But I'm saying let's do the process so that we can get those people corrected as soon as possible. And then worry about the other on the back end.
I will be getting back to you later this week or early next week with an explanation, because I'm a bit frustrated about this too. And I thought this had been done, and I'm gonna find out what happened, because
At the end of this, can we have either a report from you or Steve or
well, you have
both
a
of you
report from me.
that states whether these accounts this has happened before to these accounts, and if we know exactly where the ball's failing or dropping, or
Believe me, I'm gonna find out, because I
because every
can't,
time billing comes up, it's
I can't get this billing file fixed when stuff like this keeps happening after the fact, after I'm told, this file is good, yay, 620 something bills went out, and then 3 weeks after they go out, I find out there's 28 bills that are wrong. So I'm gonna find out what happened, because something did not happen as I was told it had happened. So I'm gonna find out. Believe me, I'm gonna find out.
If I may, Mr. Chair, how do we identify there's only 28?
Fair question. But I'm 95% sure it was 28.
Based on an eyeball test that they're obviously wrong.
Yes.
So the question I need to
Same
find
test
out.
we applied before, if I may ask?
Well,
Or
the
a
question I
different
need to
set of
find
tests?
out is if Steve's been able to look at these and find out that these 28 are obviously wrong by eyeball test, then what happened the day they got issued? Because my instructions were for there to be performed an eyeball test, and I was told it was done. And so, if we're doing it now, and it's wrong, what happened on June 29th? Because there was supposed to have been an eyeball test. So I'm gonna find out, believe me, because I'm a little distressed about this, to say the least, as I know you are. Very frustrating to be told one thing and to have something else happen. Very frustrating.
And if I may ask another question, how do we know none of these have been paid? Thus the urgency.
Some may have been paid, but most people pay it on the 1st. And the people that have called, I've asked them to hold off until the end of this week before they go paying dollars and cents. They don't have to.
So just to be clear, if I may, the process is gonna be, we've identified some accounts of those that are needed, right? Obviously, it doesn't involve any Title V.
Yes, it does.
It does.
Yes, it does.
So we managed to screw that up. That's
That's
impressive.
pretty tough.
I mean, it's, wow, okay. I mean, I just have zero confidence in this process. So at this point, it's like, are we gonna undo something that we did and then we're gonna have to do it again? I certainly don't wanna hurt any of the homeowners.
Right.
But at the same time, it's pretty confusing to know where we stand. And this is,
I will not leave you in frustration past next week, because I will get to the bottom of this. I absolutely promise you, I will get to the bottom of this.
and last question, the abatement warrant is to do what? Correct the bills, reverse the bills?
What it will, the abatement warrant will, somebody gets a $4,500 bill. It should only be 300 and something. The abatement warrant for that particular case will say there is a credit of $4,230 something, so they will pay the bill of $322. That's what it will be a credit to the account, so that they pay what they actually have to pay. They've got a credit that nullifies the rest of it.
So that means you're gonna have it fixed by Thursday, right? So you know the correct amount.
Right. We've got most of them identified now. but not all, not 100%.
But well, Thursday,
Wait.
I mean,
You said there was 28,
Right.
I think.
but you just said that most of them identified.
Most of them have been identified and we know what the problem is. There's still a couple more, and then we got.
Out of the 28, or out of the...
No, out of the 28.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to modify my
Sure.
motion if I could, is that, yes, we have the commissioner sign off, but I'm expecting a one-sheet report that will show what they were charged, what the abatement is, and what the new charge is, so that we as commissioners can see exactly
On one piece
from,
of paper.
from, with our eyeballs, to see what actually had passed through, and take from there again. So I would like that addition put in there. Will it second that?
I'd say that, but I kind of assumed that before we sign it, this is what we're gonna ascertain.
Well, but a lot of times when the warrant goes out, we don't, the 3 out of the 5 members will see it, the other 2 members won't. And more than likely, I probably won't come down and sign.
We'll have that for you.
Okay, all right, you know what I'm
Yep.
Ultimately, you'll sign a warrant, you'll sign many warrants, but it's not gonna be summarized, right?
Yeah, I'm
That's what you're asking
I'm-
for, is a
I'm-
one-page summary that says,
And hopefully no one was charged $4,500 and it should have been $120. Hopefully. That didn't happen. So, okay.
and then if I may, what are we doing to make sure the rest are right?
Well, we've done a couple different cross-references. One cross-reference has been to compare the master file to the paper files in here.
If I may stop you, Kevin.
Yeah,
What are we doing to make sure the bills are right? The master files are nice, but how do we screw up a Title V account?
They've been eyeballed.
They should have been the same as the last 5 years, or 3 years. I mean, if we managed to get a Title V account wrong, that's starting to, I mean, my confidence was weak before, it's gone to 0.
yeah, the short answer, Joe, is I don't know, because I'm told a certain thing, and then 2 weeks later, I learned that's not the case. So I'll be having some folks down here, I'll be hosting a meeting, and I'll be asking some very probative questions, believe me, to get you exactly that answer.
Okay.
All right, take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those no?
Opposed?
Opposed? Aye.
Next.
What's next, Steve? Do you wanna, I don't wanna hold Chris up, do you wanna go into executive?
Which badges? I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I'm all set, I can,
Commission to administrative
Yep.
badges.
keep going. That's stuff to do.
We didn't do contract operations.
No. I was trying to go through the administrator's report.
You got stuff left,
That's right,
Steve?
he's still on that.
Steve, what do you have left on your,
I'm sorry.
number 2?
The appointment for the generator, they was here, they found nothing, they're coming back again this week to look at the same cycle. The Lions Club, that's an annual situation. We voted several years ago to let them put a recycle box up at North Main. The caveat was they had to have that insured so that we weren't liable if somebody got hurt. That gets renewed every year in September.
Mr. Chairman, getting back to the generator, is this part of the biannual generator test that they're coming back for?
No, we're bringing them back to observe the start and stop of the generator. They were here last Wednesday, they noticed no anomalies and there was no functions, they quit. So they couldn't have anything.
So there's
else.
the generator here at the plant
Yes, yes, this generator here.
that has intermittently caused any problems, okay.
So, if I may, on this one,
Yeah.
because Brian covered it while you were here. If I understand correctly, what I heard was, we have had another incident since the reprogramming of the monitor,
Yes,
and we've had no response from
there was
National Grid?
it was sent to ask them to read it for that particular day. As far as I know, I've not seen them back to read it yet, and I didn't have a response back from my email either.
Probably you saber rattle Kevin and find out why they haven't.
Yeah, I didn't know there'd been an event, nobody told me,
Come back.
so. Are you sure? Because there was an event, and National Grid, we notified them, and they had, whoever it is at Depot that puts that
Yeah, that was in June.
bolt,
That was
right.
it, end
They
of
came
June.
down.
So there's been an event since
In
that?
June.
Okay, well, you know what, folks, I'm sorry, I don't know, nobody told me. I will find out in the morning what it was, and then, yeah, I'll definitely do some saber rattling.
Mr. Chairman, through you, can we make sure that these events are documented, date and time specific, so that we know exactly when they happen?
Yep.
All right, okay. And I did, this is a point I wanted to make, I don't want to keep anybody very longer, but during, looking over my emails, I did get another copy of the budget of the $2,500 a month to $30,000. And I noticed that there are 2 entries, 6 months apart, for the maintenance of the operation maintenance of the generator. And it's $1,600 each time. Well, that's $3,200. That should go, that should not be worked, cut in half, because I think that's violating a rule, is anything over 2,500 has got to come through the commission. So on an annual basis, we're spending over 2,500. In fact, we're spending $3,200 for that service, and we don't vote on it. So I think
Maybe,
that
Mr.
just
Chair,
a
I
heads
thought
up.
we did vote on it.
Yeah, I
No,
thought-
we
thought we-
approved the maintenance contract, so 1 and 2, couldn't tell you.
Big power.
Okay.
Big
All
power.
Yeah.
Okay,
I thought it was
then why is it, why does it come under that rather than just the regular, our regular operating budget?
That I couldn't tell you.
Because I thought that $2,500 a month was for little incidentals. This, the $3,200 is an actual contract, maintenance contract.
Yep, that comes under the contract we voted on.
Yeah, I don't know how the accounting's done.
Okay, well, because what it's doing is it's overstating that account. I think it's overstating it. Because it doesn't belong.
Where it is currently, the
Correct.
line it's on currently.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All right, move on.
All right.
Thank you.
Noted. Just got that last number 4, or did Brian cover all that?
Yes, Brian covered all that, and they've listed the 10 that they've done.
Brian touched on that. Just, you wanna do the contract operations?
Sure. So I've got a copy of the reports for you, because I know I write these incredibly riveting memos, and they must cause you sleepless nights, I hope, so. Because if they're interesting, I'm really failing. So I made copies. So I'll basically talk you through those. But, so the committee met, we received 2 proposals, Veolia and Woodard and Curran. The subcommittee was the chairman, Steve, and myself. We prepared a score sheet. It had 2 pieces to it. The first part was the minimum requirements. That's basically the stuff that everybody has to submit to even be considered. And if they miss anything on it, then their proposal is dropped out of consideration. The second part is what's called the comparative criteria, and the comparative criteria looks to try to figure out who of the proposals is the most qualified in a variety of areas. We scored them all preliminarily, then we conducted interviews last was it Tuesday morning, I think.
Yeah.
And we had each company here for about an hour and a half. Did the final scores afterwards, and basically what we found on the basis of qualifications, now remember, this does not consider price, this is just qualifications, was that we had essentially a dead heat. Now we thought Woodard and Curran had a little edge in that they've been here for 9 years, I think it is, and in the area of suggesting capital programs and some other things, we thought they probably had a little edge there. Veolia on the other hand, is a much bigger company and has more experience in the field generally of wastewater management. They also have a lot of experience in the area of water management, and that's not part of the RFP, but that was noted. So they each had, and Veolia also controls 2 sludge facilities. And right now, because of new regulations in Massachusetts, we're concerned that some of the sludge facilities may close. Millbury in particular is our concern because that's where we take our sludge right now. And Veolia, we noted, owns and controls 2 of them, so we have a guaranteed place to bring sludge. So we felt that was a bit of an advantage also. But honestly, we all scored it basically a dead heat between the 2. Had to do a lot of research to figure out who the heck is the awarding authority, and that took a couple of days because basically what I had to do is read the entire history of enabling legislation for the commission and compare it to the town chart, the town's bylaws, Mass General Law Chapter 30B. Bottom line is, the legislation that authorizes the commission does not have purchasing, contracting authority in it. Now, there's a way for you to get that if you want to do that, and we won't talk about it tonight unless you want to. But on another night you want to discuss it, I'll tell you how you could go about doing it. But for now, each community under Chapter 30B, the procurement law, has 1 CPO, Chief Procurement Officer. In Charlton, that's the town administrator. She has to take the courses, take the tests, and get certified. So right now, she is the CPO and she's the awarding authority. Now, in conversation with her, what she basically said is that she may have to technically make the award, but she is only going to award whoever it is you vote, whatever you want. We then opened up, once I got that clear, because the reason that was an issue is because if the CPO is awarding authority, then I can send a memo up to her from the subcommittee and say, open the price proposals. If the commission is the awarding authority, then we would have had to first report the non-price proposal conclusion, i.e. it's a dead heat, and then you could have opened the price proposals right here. Because only the awarding authority can open the price proposals once the non-price proposal evaluation is done. So once we concluded that, we sent that off to the TA. She opened them the next day, and that took a few days to do because the basic services, there was a very large disparity, and I don't have the memo in front of me because I just gave you, gave somebody my copy, thank you. So the first part of the analysis, there's 3 different sections to the price proposal. First is required services, standard services. Now that's basically running the plant and the collection system. Woodard and Curran bid $540,978. Veolia bid $406,950. They both have the same $30,000 maintenance fee. That's a standard provision in the contract. So Woodard and Curran's annual cost total $570,978. Veolia $436,950. Now the Inspector General, who is the enforcing authority for Chapter 30B, requires you to compute the cost on the basis of however long the contract is. Now, this contract is a 3-year issue period with 2 successive 1-year additions if the commission wants to extend it. So the 3-year cost, which is how you're required to compare them, for Woodard and Curran was $1,712,934. Veolia was $1,310,850. Obviously an enormous price difference between the 2. Now that's for the required services, the standard operations fee. Those are the services that you're going to have done irrespective of whether you want any additional service. Part 2 of the bid spec was additional services. Engineering, that's up to 120 hours of engineering. Project manager, that's basically an executive, usually a PE, who would come and do project management stuff if you asked for it, and you'd pay extra money for that. So it's a cost per hour for that kind of work. Emergency services is things that are outside of the routine that require, some sort of attention. And that could be something like a couple of weeks ago when we discovered there was no flow coming into the plant. That was pretty much as much an emergency as we can think of. And the last part was TV inspection of gravity lines. That's something that you decide how much or how little of that you want. They quote a price per hour. So all of these additional or optional services are things that are done if the commission says we want them done. But for price proposal comparison, what you do is you look at the prices. So what you see is for engineering, Woodard and Curran bid $12,600 for those 120 hours. Viola bid $7,200. Woodard and Curran bid $10,200 for project management services. Viola said that's included in their standard operations fee, so there was no additional charge. Woodard and Curran bid $8,400 for emergency services. Viola $4,800. And Woodard and Curran $12,180 for TV inspection of gravity lines. Viola $4,350. Total $43,380 for Woodard and Curran, $16,350 for Viola, for a total 3-year cost of $130,140 for Woodard and Curran and $49,050 for Viola. Now again, strictly for price proposal comparison, because you don't know how many of these additional hours of service you might want, so we assume the maximum in order to compute it and say what's the value. So when you take the additional services 3-year cost and the standard fee 3-year cost, the total quote from Woodard and Curran is $1,843,074. Viola is $1,359,900 for a price difference of $483,174. So in other words, Viola is pretty close to $500,000 lower than Woodard and Curran. Now the Chapter 30B requires you are not required to take the low bidder, because price, the way the law works on an RFP, you decide who your most qualified company is, then you open price, and what you hope is that the company that you pick as the most qualified is also the lowest. That's what you hope. In this case, we made it a dead heat, a dead draw between the two, so you open the price proposals, and that's essentially the tiebreaker. Now, were the commission to decide that you wanted to recommend Woodard and Curran, who were the high bidders, you would be required to post a letter with the Inspector General's office and say exactly why. And basically what the language out of the statute says is the selection decision may be easy when, for example, the lowest price proposal received the highest overall ratings. Not the case here. Or all proposals received the same rating, that's what the case was here, and the differences are so insignificant that you decide to go with the lowest price. So in other words, if you had them basically tied and it was a small price difference, you can go with the high bidder or the low bidder. It doesn't really matter. If you go with a higher bidder, you still have to file a letter, but if it's a negligible price difference, the IG doesn't really get longer on the axle. More importantly, if the other proposer files a bid protest and it's a negligible amount of money, and you're able to say, well, we think in this case Woodard and Curran is the more qualified proposer because they've been here 9 years, then you probably would prevail on that bid protest. But in this case, with a $500,000 difference and two companies that are essentially tied, I don't see any basis under which we would be able to say to the IG, we've picked Woodard and Curran at a $500,000 more dollars, $483,000, because the subcommittee found them to be essentially equal. So it basically breaks down into a pretty obvious decision at these kinds of numbers. The good news is, I mean, on the one hand, I've been working with Woodard and Curran now for 6 weeks. Steve's been working with them a long time. You've been working with them 9 years. And on the one hand, it's kind of a shame, because they do good work. Nobody has said anything but very good things about them. But on the other hand, $500,000 is a lot of money. The good news, it's bad news to lose a constituent company that's been doing good work for you for a long time. But the good news is this is a major savings to your ratepayers. I mean, this is a huge savings. Theoretically, all things being equal, the rates stay the same, the payments stay the same. We figure out what the heck is going on with those bills, which we will. then theoretically there's gonna be, you know, a substantial amount of money which will flow into the sewer enterprise fund as surplus revenue at the end of the year, and that's gonna be the money that you need to do some of these capital repairs, and you've got a stack of them, as you know, in that capital budget. So, you know, that's some good news. You won't be looking at a rate increase. You're still gonna have some capital money to look at. So the bidding process from the point of view of producing a serious competition was very good. And you don't really expect to produce savings on this order of magnitude. This is the biggest, I will tell you, in 4 decades of public service, I've never seen a bid process, or an RFP process, produce this big a result, a savings. This is really significant. So from that point of view, this was enormously successful too. And with Veolia, it's, you know, you're getting an outstanding company. I mean, they're huge in the business. I work with them in 2 locations, Ashburnham, Winchendon, and Southbridge, and they're a top-notch quality company. So it's not like you're not getting a highly qualified company, you're getting an excellent company. So in the memos that I wrote on behalf of the subcommittee, with all that in it, I was very sure to say at the end that, you know, because I think the result is probably pretty obvious here, that assuming Veolia is the Commission's choice, that we ought to take the time to send a letter to Woodard and Curran and thank them for their service, because they've done a good job for you over the years, and, you know, deserve a thank you. So, that's my report.
I'd like to make a motion that we recommend to the Chief Procurement Officer that this board is going to switch companies and go to Veolia, because they too are a good company. Woodard and Curran has done a great job. I'm sure they can do a great job as well. And, well, according to what you and Robin and Steve have come up with, it would be what you're, you know, you're suggesting.
Based on the price differential.
And, yeah, based on the price difference. And, oh, that's, I'm that way. Anybody?
Second.
Okay.
Any discussion?
I would, first of all, thank the 3 of you for doing the amount of work you did to go through this. And secondly, say, I think the ratepayers will be very happy with a much needed break, given that we were very concerned about how our rates were going.
So
So
this is not to reflect any negativity on Woodard and Curran.
No, not at all.
No knock on their current performance or anything they've done for us in the past. It's just simply the price proposals in addition to what we know we're saving, their additional the additional costs in the quote for the, I guess we'll call it surcharges. The prices were lower from Veolia as well.
Yeah, if it, BOD, biological oxygen demand, I think you pretty much have seen through the addendum that I gave you, that Steve said to me, that there hasn't been any surcharge for BOD for 3 years running now. For TSS, total suspended solids, has been charges. But in the bid, each company has to put in a price per pound, and Veola's was almost half of what Woodard and Curran's is. So if you have TSS loads, further savings with Veola's, you're going to save money there too. So, you know, they based from the price point of view, they basically hit it out of the park. They do have 3 or 4 things that they talked about that would be exceptions in their proposal to you. Those are all things that the commission can decide to do or not. So at some point, I don't know whether the commission wants to have them come in and talk about those things. You want a subcommittee to do that? That's really up to you guys, whatever you'd like. But that would come at the point where we're having a discussion with them about the contract and negotiating those fine details. But I called them all out for you so they could see them on the spreadsheet exactly what those things are. Then none of them are any big deal.
What would you do for an estimated takeover day or date?
By the extension, it's gotta be.
We had a
September
2-month
1st.
extension, didn't we?
Yeah.
So that would be September 3rd, so.
Yeah. I mean, that suggests, you know, we notify them they're the successful proposer, notify Woodard and Curran so they can begin that transition process. And then tell them, okay, you're gonna come in on September 1st, we're gonna have a discussion about the contract and these details and, you know, whatever else. And I'll require them to send you a memo from them saying, here's the things we'd like to talk to you about. And then it'll be these few things here. And I'll have recommendations for you on all of them. I already have recommendations. No. That's the recommendation. No. Because they've asked, give you, for instance, they want to include work on residential grinder pumps as emergency work. The RFP clearly spells out in 2 different places that work on residential grinder pumps is part of standard service. So that comes out.
Is there a
absolutely.
caveat to hours, like after hours, or?
No.
No, just
Nope. Work on residential grinder pumps is included, period, end of story. It's clearly enumerated in the, and in fairness to them, I think that just might have been an oversight. That's
Okay. Well, that's what I'm getting at. If they looked at it as, well, after hours is different than
Yeah.
during working hours.
That could be. And there's a couple other exceptions in there, but as far as I'm concerned, unless you say different, my answer on all of them is no. The RFP is the RFP.
And just double check too, because in some of their other towns, like I know Sturbridge, they fix them to repair them. Like they take the pumps back, rebuild them, do all that stuff. So maybe just get a little clarification with them.
Sure.
They might be looking at it different than how we look at it.
I think that part of that came up in the
Yeah,
interview process.
and you know what? If they get a call for a grinder pump that's not working at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they say, "Wait a minute, that's emergency. That's not stuff." Yeah, well, probably yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah,
But
that's fine.
right now, the way they've shown it is grinder pump repairs, all of them, are $40 an hour, and that's not supported by the RFP.
Oh, sorry.
The extension was for 60 days. It was 31 days in July, 31 in August. So the takeover date,
It's
the
29th.
is the 29th of the month of August.
So, given that our next meeting is August 8th, we would have to execute a contract then. Do we think 2 to 3 weeks is enough for them to get up to speed?
It'll-
Veolia is in the area, they do so, Southbridge and
Sturbridge.
Sturbridge.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
anything come up, they've got men already, 10 minutes away.
during the interview process, they emphasized over and over and over, they knew this was gonna be a short fuse,
Okay.
and they were prepared to deal with it.
They said they were already working on it.
All right, that's fine.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Motion to go into executive session?
You-
Something quick?
Just are we coming out to adjourn or coming out to keep going? Because we've got 4 or 5 other things.
Yeah, there's a couple other things. I just don't
On the
want
new
to for
business.
something.
Put the pedal to the metal, now we just finish them up.
What is it matter now?
Yeah, you stuck
I've
it.
already ruined my night.
Yeah, just,
Um,
we'll go quick.
So,
Well-
Mr. Chairman, if I might, the
Yep.
motion is to go into executive session for the purpose of
yeah.
considering the
We're
purpose.
already,
Hold
Okay.
on.
We're gonna do a couple items.
And to come back into open session following that.
Yeah, but we're gonna do it to go into.
We're gonna
When let Drew go home.
into session to
So,
adjourn.
Drew-
Yeah, then
Drew,
we don't
take it
have
out.
to cut and edit the tape.
We're gonna go back and cover
So
what's
we're
going
gonna
on.
try-
Okay.
Our cameraman doesn't have to go into the isolation booth for a few minutes.
All right. Can we start at old business, Steve?
Sure.
Discussions from last meet. I wasn't here at the last.
Oh, I'm
meeting.
sorry, you're gonna finish? before-
There's just a few
Okay.
things.
Under old business, I just wanted to say this to you guys, because there've been some questions that came up about the billing and about that letter that went out and stuff like that. It's very important to me personally for you guys to know, I will never, repeat, never underscore, take an action which is either not supported by this commission and you've duly voted it, or if there's extraordinary circumstances, I've cleared it with Alex. Now, or whoever the chairman is. Now, in this case, we had a very odd situation. It was brought to my attention that we had a number of bills which had that double zero problem, and there was gonna be a very substantial adjustment in some people's bills. And suggestion was made, we really needed to get a letter out to people to explain that, because otherwise you'd be getting all these calls. So I drafted a letter, sent it out to everybody, and I know you guys don't all have time to read emails, I get it. But the best thing I could do under the circumstances, because it was like a Wednesday or a Thursday, and I knew the bills had to go out, and my surgery was scheduled for the following Tuesday, and the bills were going Wednesday. So I sent this letter out, then I called everybody and I left you a message, said, hey, you got this email, take a look. Alex and I talked, I think, on a Friday night, and he says, "You get any response?" I said, "Nope, haven't heard anything." We were able to wait till Monday because I actually came in here all day Monday, day before my surgery, because I wanted to get as much done as I could. Driving home, reported Alex, didn't get any feedback. I did get some feedback from Virginia, the collector, which was very good, but it wasn't time. It just wasn't time. So Alex said, "Okay, letter's good, let's go with it," and we went. The part about the letter that says that we're not going to do back billings, we talked about that, and basically I didn't want to commit you either way. I didn't want to get people further upset by saying, "Oh, by the way, we made a mistake, so you're going to get whacked with a bill, and then we're going to hit you with another one." I mean, that might be perfectly appropriate, but we didn't want to put vinegar on the wound, so we kind of made it, but unequivocal, and maybe I was a little too suggesting we wouldn't be, because I don't know what your decision is, but it was clearly coming to you, whether you do it tonight or you do it another night. At some point you'll have to decide, do you want to do back bills for those? The good news is, I don't think there's a million of those accounts. I don't think there's a lot of them. I'm still finding out because of this situation we're in. But what's important to me is I took the time to write that memo for you. I printed this thing up for you because I know I know these memos are killing you, but I just want you to understand, after 6-7 weeks, now I'm kind of hitting my stride and starting to really get into the stuff that you want me to get into, and I'm going to be producing a series of memos on different topics to get things advancing. And so what I'm going to try to do is, at the meetings, with the chairman's permission, anything I send out to you in a memo form, I'm going to put it on the agenda following when it goes out for the meeting, give you a hard copy, and then if there's something to talk about, like I am now, we'll talk about. If there isn't, then it'll just be, here you go. But I want to be sure you get it. And I really do encourage you, if you have a question, give me a call. Joe sent me some questions, and we talked about it, so I want to communicate with you. I just don't know what the best way to do that is. This is sort of the way I do it, and I know you're all busy, but let me know if there's a better way I can do this, because I don't want to be doing anything without you guys' permission.
Kevin, I know for me, again, later on, is if you cleared it with Alex and Alex said let it go, then fine.
Okay.
Again, I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah, and by the way, when it
That's
came
how
up,
it's cleared.
when it came up last week,
Yeah.
and Steve didn't know that, because
Yeah.
there had been a conversation with Alex and I, because things are like
Sure.
bang, 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 just rushing
Yeah,
through.
yeah.
And
And I actually called Mary in the morning and said, "Mary, on my way to my surgery,"
Right,
and said,
and-
"Mary, go at the letter."
Right, that's
In-
the
in
purpose
reading
of
it
the chairman.
on the screen
Yeah.
and through discussion, and I don't receive a bill, so I apologize, because I only perceived it one way.
Yeah.
I wasn't open a bill
Yeah.
with the reception of it. So,
Again, it went through Alex, and again, as far as it went through the chairman, I'm fine with that. But, again, I think what we, and like you said, Kevin, is, we get barraged with email and email and email, we read some of it, scan some of it, and some of it we just don't look at.
I think
But,
you would understand.
Joe had a good suggestion for me today, and I'm going to follow it. When I send you an email, if there's some action that's needed, a vote,
yeah,
a
yeah.
What
consensus,
priority,
whatever,
1 through
I'm
5?
gonna make it in big bold,
We don't wanna say vote
highlighted.
in email.
So you guys know, if you don't need to read the whole damn thing, you know that
Right.
vote, and then you can decide,
Summary's
okay, I got
always
enough to
good.
make the vote, or I better read this.
Okay, good.
So just if I may add, Mr. Chair, one other concern that I have is that anything that goes out of the office must be signed, right? Whether it's, from the Water and Sewer Commission or it's
These statements.
from the administrator, you have to have a contact name on it. That one didn't. I mean, it said, hey, from the sewer department. Oh,
Okay,
right,
fair
so
enough.
that's a concern. My second point is, I will support the commission. I know I'm 1/5 of the commission, but, my concern is that as I read that memo, it said to me, hey, we're not going back and giving up, or we are not going back and doing billing. And I had several people, 4 total calls, 3 of which were very concerned that, hey, as ratepayers, why would you not go collect money? And so, and my concern was, and I brought it up at the commission meeting, was there a vote? You know, I respect the chair's authority, but there's no authority abrogated unless it's voted, so.
Well, in fairness, now, I will take responsibility for that wording because I hit him with this really fast and said, I need a decision, this thing's either going or it's not, and I'm scared to death. Again, another area I'm gonna be looking at real hard when I have this discussion is I was led to believe there were quite a few of these bills. Now I'm being told it's 10 or 15. I will tell you right now, if I'd known it was 10 or 15 bills, that letter would have never gone to 621 customers, it would have gone to 10 or 15 customers. But hindsight's 20/20. I'll be more probative in the future. Believe me, I'll be a lot more probative. So. Okay, well, I just wanted to go over that. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
We just have the last couple things of,
Drinking water systems, all I wanted to tell you guys was this. I've started, and I wrote that first report to you, I've started looking at groundwater supplies, looking at the 2 studies. Today I spent some time with a fella named Willie on the Board of Health. I think you all know him. Been around a long time, done a lot of drilling. He showed me some areas in town where, real good groundwater favorability, and he recalls good high production wells. I'm going to be cross-checking that information, probably talking to some other drillers. At some point, I'm going to get you a memo, and I'm going to say, look, here's what I've found. You got 2 studies, one in '96, one in 2006. I'm pretty sure they overlap quite a bit, and I'm pretty sure that they're going to say pretty much the same thing. And I'm going to come back to you with a recommendation probably in the not real distant future to start honing in and start to try to develop a supply. Because, well, not one. You never develop one supply in a municipality. You always go multiple supplies. And we come back to you with some recommendations, and we've got identified a potential source of money to do the long-term drawdown tests and really get on this and start to accomplish one of your major goals. So.
Some time ago, perhaps around 2008 or 9, with the help of then select person Kathleen Walker, we set up a subcommittee consisting of many of the well diggers in town.
One of you gave me that report. Did you give me that?
No, the report I gave you was dated previously
okay.
to this one. And I don't know if the subcommittee ever came up with any conclusions, but it was comprised of Charlton Well, Steve's Repair, and I don't remember
I
who
was
else.
on it.
Were you on it?
Yeah.
And so if
Is
there
there
were
a
some
report around
recommendations given by that committee,
That would be
it would
gold.
be helpful to
I'll see.
look at it.
Did the
Basi-
committee?
At the time, the recommendation was to kind of not pursue the existing wells that we looked at down in the Buffalo area. It wasn't to throw away other wells, it was just the money that we had put towards the Buffalo area to eliminate that. The immediate thing was to just, go with Southbridge. We needed water, it's the fastest, easiest, most kind of practical solution at the time.
Yep. Okay.
So, obviously, it's been what,
Especially
10 years?
since we don't have a water budget.
So if
Correct.
I'm reading you guys right now, you are ready to start looking at developing a Charlton supply.
Correct.
Okay, then that's where I'm
It's
going.
feasible, we certainly
And
want
I
to
will be
consider it.
back to you
Yeah.
with,
I think we do want with Charlton Supply and or a water company, because we have given notice as far as wanting to move to a consecutive water system with Southbridge as long as the numbers work. So that clock is now ticking away. So if they say, well, fine, and here's the numbers, and the numbers are agreeable to us, then we need a plan to operate this office and operate that system.
Okay.
So that's what we need to be.
I'm working on those 2 things
Okay.
in parallel.
Right.
And by the way, your first 41,000 and change check came from Southbridge today. It is now deposited, and I'll be shooting you a short memo at some point saying, you got the dough, here's what you're allowed to spend it on. Just put that in the back of your head. You don't have to vote, you don't have to do anything right away. Just be aware you've now got that, and there's supposed to be another one coming. I sent you another one of those put you to sleep memos, went through all that detail, so.
We can call and have the ice cream truck come.
Or try to cover some of the deficit.
Yeah, okay. All right, next.
Sturbridge Road press test?
have a pressure test here. I was given it tonight. Review it in the morning and go over with
Okay.
great what it covers.
Contract operations, we did. Water map, we did. Sewer map?
So, yeah, just let you know I'm working on it because
Okay.
we need one, and I'll get back to you when I can figure something out.
Commission to administrator for badge. I imagine this is from my statements?
Yes.
He's saying no, you're saying yes.
Well, it came up during the interviews,
Right.
because, for instance, we're not sure we universally have badges for people who might go out, from the.
Okay.
From the system
I'll
operator.
do a quick down and dirty on this.
So the TA asked for a vote and a letter from you requesting your
Who's the
personnel
TA?
have badges. Town administrator.
Oh.
So you just have to vote to request that personnel working for you that are representing you going to homes be given identification badges. They'll make sure it happens.
It came up at your, go ahead.
See, I had asked Woodard and Curran to go get badges. I was told by the person administrating the program, no,
Right.
it's for town people only.
And during the interview process last week, it came up, and Robin was here, and I questioned it because any contractor where we are, for their safety and everybody involved, they're Cory checked, and they have a badge that says the town of, stating that they're approved vendors.
Sure.
And it just makes logic.
Yep.
If we're gonna hire these people, that, and they're gonna possibly go in people's houses and or businesses representing the town, they should have.
So she asked for a vote
That's-
from the
that's where it came
commission,
from.
which I'll then transmit to her, that you so voted, and then whoever's out there in the field work and going to homes, will go get badges. And Steve will be the control point for
If
it.
I may, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Kevin or Steve, whoever, to go obtain badges to help it correctly identify any water and sewer related employees
Get us-
under contract work in town.
I'll second
Any discussion?
Do we wanna do it with the, knowing that we just changed operators?
Yeah, why don't you amend
We only
that
got
to
20 something.
wait till
Do we wanna
Yeah,
do
we won't get back
one
and
at a
redo
time,
it.
and,
No,
yeah.
we'll
This
just
is
do it
beginning
once.
September first.
it? Beginning.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
that-
September 1st.
Yep.
Everybody good with that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Bob?
Does everybody,
Aye,
everybody's
aye,
not,
aye.
it's not in the Robert's rules.
I don't believe
Come
the
on.
badges have names. They,
Oh, they should?
Oh, yeah.
They should.
They should, they should.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Name and
Picture and a
place.
name?
that'd just be a general badge you wouldn't get unless.
No, they're not gonna be like stinking badges from the
No, not like a
police.
police badge. Just waiting for that.
I was waiting. Badges? Oh, come on, it's only badges.
Oh, I know.
Have you seen it?
What's that, Steve?
Who seconded that motion? Gabe made the motion. Who seconded it?
I second it.
Thank you.
Paul.
It's now 9:05. It's been 40 minutes.
Like nuts, Francis.
Since we said 10 minutes of that.
We're going.
Hire temporary clerk.
We need to talk about that.
Yeah, my memo to you on the billing issues, owing to the hour, we'll defer that to the, there's nothing critical, we'll defer that to your next agenda, okay? 'Cause-
Okay, great. Or I'll be off.
And the clerk, it's probably, we haven't had a full-time clerk in here in a while. Steve is overwhelmed. I'm doing what I can to help him, taking phone messages, and basically all I can do is take messages and dump it on him later. So it's pretty obvious we need some clerical help. I don't, yeah,
I thought we were getting help from
we are, we're getting help, but I
selectman's
mean,
office.
we're paying a premium for that.
I get it.
And I'm not suggesting that what's currently in process be terminated, because I think one person's doing it, let's just get that piece done. But once that's done, then I think you definitely need some help down here. Now, I
Okay.
don't think you need full-time, I think you need something like 20 hours or 25
Sick.
from a temp agency, because I don't want, put it this way. Part of your charge to me is to give you a staff model for what you're gonna need July 1 next year if you go consecutive. That is not gonna be a part-time clerk, it's gonna be full-time, without a doubt, and some other staff too, potentially. What I don't wanna do is have you hire somebody and then have to lay them off, which is, or say to them, hey, you're working 20 hours, how'd you like to work 40? Because you're not gonna get the same quality of applicants for 20 as you would for 40. And so you'd be doing yourself a disservice to bring on somebody part-time and then expect them to jump to full-time next year. So the best way, the smartest way to do this is to go to the temp agency for the number of hours you're willing to authorize. No unemployment responsibility, no pension responsibility, none of that. You pay a loaded rate, because whoever they're working for, the temp agency covers that. You don't. But when you decide time to part company, there's no liability. It's just, thank you, have a nice life. Now we're advertising for our full-time employee, whenever that is. So, I do think you need some help in here. It's pretty overwhelming on that guy. Doesn't fall on me, because I'm researching long-term strategic issues, and I'm not really operations, and like I say, I help out when I can, but I'm not in here every day, and meantime, you've got a need. So,
Mr. Chairman, two things is, what needs immediate attention is getting someone consistent who's gonna be able to do the billing.
yes,
Okay, so we need to find, we need to develop, I think we need to develop a description. We already have a description of the assistant, but maybe a new description of the person that we see is gonna be in here come July 1st. But we hire that person soon so that we can get our Mike from the software company to come down and train that person, who's also going to be a clerk here, to be able to do the billing.
here's the
That's
problem,
key.
Rob, and I don't disagree with that in any way, but here's the problem. I cannot recommend to you in good conscience that you need a full-time person, because I don't think you do right now. If you go consecutive on July 1 of next year, you're gonna have a water billing and a sewer billing and a water department, and you're gonna have a lot of work, and I think then you're gonna need a full-time clerk. The dilemma is, if we bring in a part-timer now, teach them Vadar, get them all up to speed on
Right.
it, and then next July, you're gonna go full-time, you're gonna say to this person, would you go full-time, which is not realistic to do with people, or you're gonna lay them off, and then you're gonna pay unemployment. So the only way that I can think of to avoid all that is to go with the temp agency. Not perfect, I get it, because,
But what are we gonna do about billing?
well, that's,
That's, you know.
I think what we're gonna have to do about billing is we're gonna have to take the temp person, assuming they can, and Mary, who's currently doing it, and Steve's gonna have to learn some aspect of this to be able to back up. And Mary's gonna be your person to do the billing. She's gonna be trained. She's already half trained because we've had to do that. So she needs a bit more training to get up to full speed. I don't see that as a huge hours commitment, though, to just doing the billing.
All right, we can discuss that more. The
Yeah.
second thing, and excuse me for jumping in there, Kevin,
No, it's okay.
is under this new contract, or under the present contract, and under the new contract, will our sewer operators be doing the physical meter reading?
I'm gonna be coming to you with a recommendation, for the most part, and I don't have the numbers yet. But what I'm hoping is that we're gonna have, replace the current meters with all new meters, because you got this whole going consecutive, getting rid of the Southbridge meters, or, right now we get 3 or 4 different meters out there. What I'd like to see you have is radio reads,
Okay, let's
so
see,
that you don't read them.
It is currently, the meters that we read, which is what, 20 or 30 of them?
About 170.
No, we read them, so physically read them, by actually going to the property. No,
Oh,
going
you're
to the
talking
property.
about the hand reads.
The hand reads, oh, right.
Yeah, each
How many of those?
drive-by read, we end up typically with around 20 that we've gotta do with the hand read.
The manual
Well,
read.
there are some meters that there is no,
Oh, the 2-inch meters, yeah, there's
Right.
like less than 10 of those.
there's less than 10
Yeah.
of those. All right, and maybe I should wait for Steve to come back. I
What
wanna
the-
know is, why is Steve in the vehicle reading the meters?
You don't have anybody else?
No, he was riding shotgun.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
why?
that-
The guy is busy, he's overwhelmed. Why is he out riding in the
He
truck?
went out a couple, this is what I was told, he went out a couple times to learn and to see what was going on as a backup approach. I don't think he's been doing it for the last 8 years.
So, let me ask a dumb question, because I obviously wasn't here. So who was reading the meters?
Wood and
The
Curran.
sewer truck from Wood and Curran pulls into the property my wife owns, okay? And who's riding shotgun but Steve?
Oh,
Oh, that's
I didn't
what I
know
said. I said, oh.
I didn't know that.
Because they know, they go to the pump house, or the pump room,
I
they
digress a
put their
little
hand
further.
up over the,
Just food for thought. What's it matter the size of the meter?
what's it, what, I'm sorry?
Why does it matter the size of the meter? Why can't we just put a touchpad out?
Well, I know the 2-inch meters, they're not drive-by, you know, they're manually read.
Why?
And I think the question you were asking me is, I think it's really, the question you're asking me is why are we having 2 people do what one person should do?
It's pointed, and that's why I said it.
Yeah.
Is when Steve comes back, I'll say the exact same thing. Is if he's so busy, why is he reading meters when it's the obligation of Wood and Curran?
That's a good question.
Okay.
I don't have an answer for you, because
Okay.
I
No. We'll
did
get
not know.
in 10 seconds.
until this moment.
Steve,
I had 20.
you had 21.
I had to go read.
Why did you have to read?
It wouldn't, because you gentlemen were kind enough to buy me the meter reader. I know how to use it.
No.
So I went out and did it.
Stop. You did it by yourself?
Yes.
No, I'm sorry, sir. It was, what was it, last Thursday or Friday? I'm in a building and I see the truck pull in. There's 2 people in the truck. There's a driver and then there's yourself riding shotgun. So my question is that with all the work that you have and all the load that you have, why are you reading meters? Or why are you going out with the driver reading meters?
That wouldn't work.
What would,
That wouldn't,
no, the one individual.
what do you want me to do?
Well, why don't you sit here and do your job?
Okay.
If
Fine.
that's your
Fine.
job,
Fine.
that's why I asked, is it your
Fine.
job? Simple question.
Well, I'll have a discussion with Steve and Woodard and Curran tomorrow to try to learn a little bit more about who does the reads and why and how it happens. But until this moment, I did not know it's the operator's responsibility to read the meters. I presume Steve was trying to get some knowledge about this and was riding with him, but I'll
Quick question, if I may, Mr. Chair.
find out.
Hey, Steve,
Yes.
if there is a misread problem, this and that, is Wood and Curran obligated to go back, or does that then fall onto this gray area where you have to go?
They are not responsible they're responsible for reading the meters, not repairing them, not going out to check them again and again, no.
Okay.
They don't do the manual reads.
Correct.
Steve has to do those.
Which is the
No, they do, Wood and Curran does the manual reads.
They do the manual reads?
Yeah, that's what they've been doing on my wife's property. That's what they've been doing for the last 5 years.
Okay,
Is
manual,
they
you
go
mean
there,
putting
get
that
a
little
key.
device on the transponder?
No, they actually open the door and there's
Oh.
6 meters there. And
Gotcha.
again, they read 4 or whatever,
But the long and short is,
by hand.
the sewer department should be, other than repairs, you know, if we don't do that, a contract, they should be handling 98.8%, you know what I mean? They should be doing 99% of it, and then even the rereads, all that stuff should be done. I mean, I've done that when I worked at water departments, I'm sure you guys do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, you know, the fixing and the breaking, that's totally understandable, you know what I mean? I think we subbed that out to,
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe you, I'm gonna quote you, Southbridge has 4,200 customers that were all hand reads. In other words, you gotta go either into the house or whatever. 6 guys, 6 days? Is that how long it took?
you know, some books we do
6 guys,
fast.
6 days.
That's crazy.
Rain,
Do- do the
rain or
math.
shine, we used to,
It's
every
again,
house.
it's not a big deal.
Wore out many issues.
Well, so here's what I would suggest, given the questions and the lateness of the hour. Because it could be a lengthy discussion about this clerical person.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not smart, but I'm picking that vibe up. So what I would like you to do is please take this under consideration. Clearly, I got to do some more work on my end to come back to you with a little more thought here. But if you would please give that some thought, and I'll have it on the agenda at the next meeting. Probably have a little more conversation with Alex and try to have this scoped down a little bit more.
The 2 cents I'll throw in, that's a union position, correct?
Yes.
It's gotta be, right?
It's a union.
Union position?
Yep.
Carol's position was a union position?
It says a union position
Okay.
now. If you leave it that way, it'll be a union
Okay.
position again.
I don't know as if once it's in the union, whether we can just draw it
No.
out. However, I do know once a position's open, typically, that's the only time you can change anything in a job description. And I will say that publicly, so you guys are aware of that. So if we fill it now as is, and there's things you want changed, the job description is something we need to look at first.
Right, and Kevin's working on it. That's
Yeah.
about, at
Right,
least I
I'm
see
just-
it as one of his tasks. that he
Yeah,
is,
I'll have to have a conversation with Robin too about what the contract says and what you can and can't do.
I don't know, but
If I may, Mr. Chair, Kevin, can we, and I wish, I wish this was dealt with a couple months ago, but can we still, to pay a premium is worth it to get people down here?
Yeah.
Can we rob a couple more people from the town hall, or people that are already in the system, maybe that are working 20 hours, maybe can go to 30, or,
What we get, yeah, that's a good question. What we get going on
you know what I'm saying?
right-
Because we're really only
Yeah,
talking a couple
that's-
months.
That's a good question. What we get going on right now is one person is because they've been working with this file all along, is they're taking the assessor's records and comparing it to our
but I know
building
one
file
of the
and-
people who come down here was part-time.
Yeah, yeah, and they're making sure that our file, street addresses and all that matches the assessors, because we know that file's right. That's absolutely correct. Just to make sure all our addresses are right in the system, because that's been a bit of a bugaboo, because we had some we knew were wrong. So that's happening. That probably will be done fairly soon. Once that's done, and again, we'll do the billing issues on another night, then there's only one last thing we can do to make it more or less accurate. And then it is what it is. It's hopefully now accurate. We're gonna figure out what the hell this other billing problem was, but we'll fix that. Then it's a question of a person needs to input a certain amount of data every time we do a bill run into Veda, make corrections, and physically has to know how to do it, because it's a whole series of screens and how you get in. It's a little bit of a cumbersome system, but once you learn it, you know it. So the question is, what's the most efficient way to do that?
Mr.
And,
Chairman, if I may, sorry to interrupt you, Kevin, but you were coming close to the end, is when is the next set of bills going out?
Not until, we now have the Southbridge reads, we have the Charlton reads. Theoretically, we could produce a bill on this last quarter anytime we want. But I'm not gonna do a bill run, because once we run the bills, there's no way to do a trial run when you hit Vadar and you tell.
Correct, okay, so
So,
Steve,
I
according
don't
to.
wanna run them, Rob, until we sort out these 28 problems. And this time, when we run these bills, I'm gonna personally do the eyeball test
Okay, all
and
right.
find out
Kevin-
what the heck is going on.
Steve's got a calendar here somewhere too, where he's got drop dead dates as far as read meters and when the bills are going to go. So for this quarter coming up, to be consistent, what date is the drop dead date for the bills to go out?
We don't really need to send this bill out for this quarter that just ended, June 30th.
Yeah,
If we were gonna send them out at the same time you sent them last year, you'd send them in September. Now, I'm hoping to beat that for obvious reasons. But
okay,
the
all right, so
concern-
this is what I'd like to do, So
Yeah.
let's say September 15th. Steve, is that the drop dead date usually for the quarter ending June? You have it on your calendar?
What I have got right here is read dates of 5, 6, 7. And then the next read dates are October 4, 5,
And when's the
6.
bill date?
Bill date would be, it's been running somewhere around 45 to 50 days after the meeting.
All right, okay, so Mr. Chairman, this is what I'd like to do. Okay, I want to probably put this in motion form. What we need to do is we need to train people through Mike at the $790 a day, and it's gonna come down for one day, and we need to, Mike said, you can have one person in the room, or you can have the room full of people. Doesn't matter, still the $790. Let's find the people who are already been working here part-time. So, some people who are part-timers for the town who want to learn it on their own, or anyone else out in the community who may want this job, that they can attend to learn this. Okay, so that what we do is let's get the pro in here, and let's have him train the people, and maybe, and we should have our administrator here, so he would also know how this is done, so that now we already have to have a good supply of people we can draw from to say, now it's billing time. And we've got this computer behind me, is they can practice on, or whatever they need to do. Is it still behind me?
Yeah, it's
So
still
what
behind you.
is,
So,
what is your
Well,
motion?
let me.
the motion is to get Mike down here and to train people,
Okay.
within the next 21 days.
Let me just ask you, please, to not pass that motion tonight. Because the billing memo that I gave you has a lot of implications in it about when you should do that, when you shouldn't, and things like that. And I'd rather have you have a thorough discussion about the billing system at your next meeting. And then if you feel that that's what you want to do, then you should do it. But all I'm telling you is right now we're fine with the bills. We're okay, because between the woman we borrow from Athol and our own clerk, we can produce a bill. It's not a problem. And we could produce that next week if we wanted to.
Okay.
But I know that system is not right yet, so I don't want to produce every time we produce the bill this past time, we get a lot more accurate. We still got some issues. So I want to get those issues scrubbed out, tell you why, what the heck happened, make those issues get resolved, and then come back and say, look, here's what, we're ready to do something. And I've clearly got to give this a little more thought, and I apologize to you, because I really thought we were ready to get a temp in here, and we've got to do a little more work on the staff side.
So,
Bear with me. I'll have it for your next meeting.
if I may, Mr. Chair, so if a ratepayer happens to still be awake, I know this isn't live, but maybe somebody will watch this. When can they expect to see the next bill? It's a pretty simple question, right?
Yeah, I mean, the plan was to produce this next bill somewhere around September 1st. And then as soon as we produce the bill, then what happens is the meter gets wiped, it gets reloaded, and then we go read we do the new reads. So the time to do the new reads would be July, August, September. I'm sorry, I said September. We wouldn't do the new reads till the first week of October. So we don't need to produce a bill until the critical time is we got to get the bill out before we do the read, because once we reload that thing, we lose those reads. So we can't go back and reconstruct them. So we've got to be sure the bill's right before we redo it.
So correct me if I'm wrong, we've already done the reads.
Yeah. Yep.
We've downloaded the data. How many have we missed? What was the failure rate on this cycle?
I had 18 issues.
18.
Plus 2. I had Peter out there, the 2 that I couldn't read, he has fixed. The other 18 I've got reads on. What I intend to do is get hold of EJP and say, hey, why can't you read these off the remote reader? Because it's transmitting to the handheld.
I'm not worried so much about those. That's fairly normal. I'm worried about these 28 that all of a sudden.
Oh,
I have
I'm
no
asking-
explanation for why that happened, and that concerns me because I don't want that to happen when we send
Well-
bills again. Because there's a problem in the system that did that. We got to figure out what it is, and we got to fix it, and then we'll be ready to produce bills. So the target was around the 1st of September. Produce the verification report, which is like a bill, but not exactly. It's basically a run of everything. Look at them and say, okay, those look good, or these 10 look wrong. Figure out what's wrong, and then fix them, and then run the bills.
You have all the data to do that now, right?
Which we do. Yep. We got all the reads.
You can't bill because you got 28
No,
accounts
no,
that are
no.
screwed up.
I know you can't bill,
Or more.
but the verification can all be done, all this behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he's gonna do.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
No, I don't think that's what the chairman's asking. What the chairman's asking is, can you load the data, load it in Aveda, and run the verification file?
Yes.
And the answer is no.
No, we can load it in. The problem is, I got 28 bills that are messed up, and I don't know why.
That's right.
No, but that's last quarter. You
Right.
have all the data to run the next quarter?
You have-
Yes, but here's the problem. Whatever it is that corrupted those 28 bills has not been fixed, and I don't know what it is. So we want to figure that out so that when we load that data, we don't reload those 28 bills corrupted again, and then we gotta abate them, and we gotta redo it. So I wanna know
Okay,
why
so
those are
you,
wrong.
you can only load it, once you load it, you load it.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Okay.
that's the way it works,
And so
yes.
if your end read was screwed up, then you come in and you
Yeah,
say,
I
oh,
mean,
here's the
what-
new.
Alright.
The problem,
Why
again, I don't
EJP?
wanna get into
Let's-
too much
alright, wait,
detail,
wait, wait.
but the
Why
problem
EJP?
is, we're dealing with a file which isn't right yet, and we're dealing with very, very antiquated equipment. So we're dealing with two problems simultaneously.
Stop. EJP, you need to get a hold of somebody who's census,
Mhm.
all right? It sounds like there's something amiss there.
Yeah.
And verify
Could
that,
be, I don't know. I gotta look at these 28 and figure out what the heck is going on.
what was the two issues Peter did, Steve?
160 and 65.
Broken wires or something.
He went in, he wiggled the wires, and they read. And I asked him about the other 18, and he said, something is wrong. If you're getting a reading in the handheld, then it's something beyond that. And he said, you gotta call EJP or Census to say, hey, fix it so they can read them.
So, we only have 200 metered customers, about
170-ish.
107. 20 are bad every time. Now, is it the same 20? Is
No.
it a different
No,
20?
everybody's telling me it's
So
different.
that was a different.
Different,
I
yeah.
know.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, these are rhetorical questions.
I-
I should have qualified that. Right? The fact of the matter is there something majorly wrong with this entire process? And all we keep doing is kicking this can down the road. So, as a commissioner, I'm exceedingly frustrated that, you know, we're gonna fix it tomorrow, we're gonna have it next week. A month from now, it'll be better. I've been listening to this for 2 years.
What I can
I'm-
tell you with the only thing I can tell you with certainty is that the file that we did the last billing on was extremely inaccurate to the tune of dozens and dozens of accounts and hundreds of thousands of dollars of inaccuracy. That has now been brought down to a very small number of inaccuracies. So I think we're very, very close to finally getting this to where it should be. But work continues. And I can't give you any better answer than that, guys. All I can say is that we've made major improvements in the last 6 weeks, but it's not perfect yet.
If I'm just, last comment here, okay, because the problem here is that the technology that was supposed to save us time and do a great job. I go back to Southbridge having 4,200 customers with six meter readers in 6 days. That's 116 is what it works out. 116 if I did the math correct. That one person does it one day. So we need one person to spend 2 days, and they could do all of the readings by hand. And I trust that better than this machine. So the thing is if we're going to go and do anything, I think we should go back to reading the meters by hand and have this mounted meter reader on the exterior of the home. Walk up and read it and go home.
It'd still take you longer, but you know.
I just did it. It's 116
I did
in the
it.
day.
I did it. I'm the only one in this room who
So-
walked it.
So you don't-
I did it.
So it's called work.
No, when
It's all
houses are
work.
200, when houses are 50 feet apart, it's a big difference than in Charlton when
All right,
they're a mile
okay.
apart.
All right, so it takes one person 4 days.
I guess
Yeah. So,
But it's
anyways,
right.
I guess my concern is, and I'll repeat myself for the sake of repeating myself. Being in the technology business,
Mm.
nothing you're doing is going to fix that problem.
That's right.
Nobody has ever addressed the fact that out of 200, 10% fail every freaking time.
Yeah.
Nobody. I don't care what you're doing to the master file. That could be deleted tomorrow. You still can't read. Now, if someone can tell me that reading them and getting it loaded is causing the master file errors, then we're on the right track. If not, that's great. That train's going to Chicago and someone's going to Dallas. That's where we're going to end up. It's going to be another 90 days and we're going to be like, oh yeah, sorry, I went to the airport looking for a train. We're not getting anywhere.
well, we are because we cut it down from 170 to 28.
At the risk of curing your insomnia,
Yeah.
read this thing,
Okay.
because there's a lot of information
I
in
read
here
it.
that's being asked.
Doesn't say anything about fixing that problem. Absolutely not.
It's talked about a lot
We'll go
here.
EP. We're going to EP.
I mean, we could have ripped out everything we have in town and put in something new and still had this corrected.
Well,
last time.
that's being suggested.
I'm thinking people would
You
do.
you heard it earlier,
I've
that's
heard.
being suggested.
Yep.
I've heard.
Okay,
Cathedrals
and I
put
don't-
in last time.
What's
Sorry, I'll stop right
real
there.
quick, Mr. Chair? What's you guys' backup procedure if the you run one of the largest water systems in the state? What
What's
you guys?
ours, if we have an issue, we know right away, and one of the meter techs goes out and we
Okay.
put it to sleep and do
Now, if
4
you,
reads a
if,
day, right?
if you can't coordinate,
6 reads a day.
if you can't coordinate getting into the basement and doing this and doing that, do you have them like fill out a card or anything, or is it?
no.
What I'm saying is because then what happens when it comes down to you get the 20 people and then you make 15 phone calls to try and coordinate to get into the basement to verify the meter or this and that.
No, there's a
We have
small,
22,000 customers.
I agree.
Right. So if there's an issue, a letter's issued that gets dropped off. They
Okay.
call up and set up an appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Okay.
and then whatever needs to get, if the meter needs to get changed out, or if it's a FlexNet or a touchpad issue, that can get addressed. But most of that can be done outside, where you can take the FlexNet and put the meter to sleep
Correct.
and wake it up with never having to go inside the house.
Correct. And so then go to my next point is, what do you guys do with those 28 if they don't miss, if they mix the next? Well, let's say you had 100 out of the 22,000. Those just get put
I
on.
believe
hold.
they do estimate bills,
Okay.
and that usually pulls somebody up short quick enough to say,
Okay. So, and
And-
that's what I'm kind of getting with is basically, you can't have a whole system bogged down by 20. And you know that. And
but I
No,
believe it
what-
goes to
what-
estimate
what-
bills. I'm not
what-
that familiar with all the
what
billing.
Easton does, and Easton's got a very modern system like Framingham's does, is that they have a problem with the read, and they bill
Thing we
12
usually
times a
read.
year.
Would be number 6.
They send an estimated bill based on prior performance, then they read it the next cycle, and they adjust the bill.
Right.
That's all they do.
Correct.
And it's
Yeah,
pretty
exactly.
simple.
Yeah. But it sounds like we can't do that.
No, we can't. We can't yet.
Okay.
We can't yet.
Is that because it's a computer issue, or you can't adjust the Can you edit after you plug it in?
The meter reader?
Yes.
No, but you can edit in the file. You know, what
So
you
you can
put
edit
in
in
the computer,
Vadar
you
before
can-
it goes to bill.
You can do it, you can change anything in Vadar, yes.
Okay.
But, once you put it in there,
You committed.
you know, it's now going to print whatever it is you tell it. So,
So you gotta.
No, but you can. But in your verification report,
yep,
let's say it's 100 gallons or 100 cubic feet off, whatever it is, you can change that before the bill goes.
yep, yep,
Okay, thanks.
yep. And as I told you earlier this evening, what I was told, what I required and what I was told was done, was that there was an eyeball test done on those 621 bills. And they all looked right. Because the ones that didn't look right, my instructions were very clear. Pull them out, don't send the bill. When I get back next week, I'm gonna look at them one at a time, and the 3 or 4 of us that are involved in this, are gonna figure those out one at a time. I was told 621 bills went clean.
Alright.
Clearly, that didn't happen, because we're now got 28 that have some obvious major problems associated with it. So, I can't reconcile those two statements tonight, because I'm just.
Yeah,
worried
no,
about it.
exactly. Yep.
But what I will promise you that I will get it reconciled. I promise you that. No doubt about that.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I want to make a motion that we go into executive session. And the purpose of the executive session is to deal with exception number 6. Consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate. If such discussion may have a detrimental effect on the negotiation position of the governmental body and a person, firm, or corporation, and after we exit the executive session could be for the purpose of exiting or
Adjourning the meeting.
adjourning the meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call vote.
Lemansky, aye.
Berthium, aye.
See that guy.
Mackenzie, aye.
Thanks, Steve.
Executive session.